He paid her debt for a baby. But after taking her virginity and getting twins, he gave her his heart. The forensic accountant's words hit Spencer Carrigan like a physical blow. Your community center architect has been stealing from you for months. He stared at the evidence, then at Erica Lance across his office, her face draining of color. Not again. He couldn't be this wrong about someone again. But as security moved toward her, his 15-year-old daughter burst through the door screaming, "Dad, stop! You don't understand what she's really been doing with that money." 3 months earlier, Spencer stood at the construction site of what should have been a thriving community center, watching another failed project crumble before his eyes. The morning sun cast long shadows across abandoned equipment and half-finished walls, a monument to good intentions executed by people who didn't understand what communities actually needed. "Mr. Carrigan," Frank Morrison, the retired architect who'd been consulting on the project, approached with careful steps. At 68, Frank moved like a man carrying invisible weight. "I know someone who could fix this, someone brilliant." Spencer turned away from the wreckage, his blue eyes sharp with skepticism he'd learned the hard way. If they're so brilliant, why aren't they already working for someone else? Because she made one mistake. Frank paused, seeming to measure his words. And the industry made her pay for it in ways that had nothing to do with justice. The pronoun caught Spencer's attention. In his experience, the architectural world was still an old boys' club, quick to forgive men their errors and even quicker to destroy women for the same. What kind of mistake? The kind where a contractor cuts corners, people die, and the firm finds someone to blame who isn't them. Frank's voice carried regret that sounded personal. She's working under the table now, consulting for community organizations who can't afford anyone else. But Spencer, she's the real thing. She cares about people, not just buildings. Spencer studied the older man's face, seeing something there that made him curious despite himself. "Why are you telling me this? If she's as good as you say, why haven't you hired her yourself?" "Because I'm retired and a coward." The admission came without self-pity, just fact. "I had evidence that could have cleared her 2 years ago. I stayed silent because I was afraid of losing my pension. I have to live with that, but you don't." Then you tell him the truth, that you tried to stop it, that you've spent 2 years making amends for something that wasn't your fault. Tessa paused. "Or you can keep living like this, brilliant and invisible, broke and broken. Is that what Michael and Rebecca and James would want? For you to give up everything you are?" Erica looked at the photo on her wall, then at the plans on her screen. Buildings that could hurt or heal communities. She'd wanted to heal. Somewhere along the way, she'd forgotten that healing required believing she still had something to offer. "If I do this," she said slowly, "I do it under a consulting name. No credentials, no history. Just the work." Frank already told him that's the arrangement. "Girl, take the chance. You deserve this." After Tessa hung up, Erica sat in the silence of her apartment, touching the business card Frank had sent over weeks ago. Spencer Carrigan's private number, with a note in Frank's shaky handwriting. "He needs someone who understands what it means to start over. So do you." She picked up her phone before she could talk herself out of it, dialing the number with fingers that trembled just slightly. It rang twice before a voice answered, deep and measured, the kind of voice that commanded boardrooms. "Spencer Carrigan." "Mr. Carrigan, my name is Erica." She deliberately left off her last name. "Frank Morrison gave me your number. He said you might need architectural consulting for a community center project." There was a pause, and she heard traffic sounds in the background. He was driving, probably on his way to some important meeting, too busy to waste time on a disgraced architect working under the table. "Can you meet me at the site tomorrow morning? 7 o'clock. I want to see how you think, not just what you can draw." His voice carried a challenge, but also something else. Curiosity, maybe. Or the wariness of someone who'd learned the hard way that surfaces lie. "I'll be there," Erica said, and meant it. After the call ended, she sat staring at her reflection in the darkened laptop screen. Tomorrow she'd meet a man who represented everything her career could have been. And she'd do it hiding half of who she was, hoping that her work would speak louder than her past. On her desk, next to the plans, sat her checkbook. 3 payments scheduled for next week. college tuition for Rebecca Washington's twins, mortgage payment for Sarah Chen's house, and a scholarship fund she'd established anonymously in James Rodriguez's name. Between those payments and her rent, she'd have exactly $47 left for food for the month, but the families would be okay. And maybe, just maybe, this was her chance to be okay too. Not to forget what had happened, but to prove that one person's betrayal and a corrupt system's scapegoating didn't define her worth as an architect or as a human being. She spent the rest of the evening preparing, pulling together her best work from projects that had no name attached to them. By the time she finally slept, it was after 2 a.m, and her dreams were full of buildings that healed instead of hurt, of second chances and new beginnings. The community center site looked different in the early morning light. Erica arrived 15 minutes early, wanting time to absorb the space before Spencer Carrigan appeared. The lot sat in the heart of a neighborhood that had been neglected by developers who saw only demographics and profit margins, never the families who'd lived there for generations. She walked the perimeter slowly, noting the way morning sun would hit the eastern wall, how the prevailing winds came from the northwest, where children had worn paths through the empty lot playing games with improvised equipment. This was what the traditional architects had missed. The space already had a story, a life, a purpose. Any building they constructed had to honor that, not erase it. "You must be Erica." She turned to find Spencer Carrigan walking toward her, and her carefully prepared composure faltered for just a moment. The photos on his company website hadn't captured the presence of him, tall enough that she had to tilt her head back to meet his eyes, dark brown hair that showed distinguished silver at the temples, and blue eyes that seemed to see through every defense she'd carefully constructed. He wore an expensive suit with casual confidence, but his tie was slightly loosened, suggesting he'd been working since before dawn. "Mr. Carrigan," she extended her hand, proud that it didn't shake. "Thank you for meeting with me." His handshake was firm but brief, and she caught the scent of his cologne, something subtle and undoubtedly expensive that made her acutely aware of her own discount store perfume and twice-mended jacket. "Frank speaks highly of you." Spencer's gaze swept the site, then returned to her. "But I've been burned by people others vouched for. I need more than recommendations. Show me what you see here." It was a test, and they both knew it. Erica took a slow breath, letting the space speak to her the way she'd been trained to do before fear and guilt had silenced her instincts. "You see a failed project," she began, gesturing to the abandoned equipment. "I see a community that's been promised things before and had those promises broken. That's your first challenge. Any building you put here has to say, 'We mean it this time.'" Spencer's expression didn't change, but something shifted in his posture. Attention, maybe. She continued, warming to her subject, remembering why she'd fallen in love with architecture in the first place. "The lot faces east, which means morning sun hits hard. But look at those trees on the northern edge." She pointed to a stand of old oaks that had somehow survived decades of urban development. "They create natural shade in the afternoon. Smart design works with that instead of against it." She moved across the lot, and Spencer followed. "See those paths the kids have worn? They're telling you where traffic naturally flows. Put your entrance here, and people will use it. Put it there, and you're fighting human nature." "Most architects would just design according to city codes and maximum square footage," Spencer said, and there was something in his voice she couldn't quite identify. "You're designing for how people actually live. Buildings should heal communities, not just house them." The words came out more passionately than she'd intended, revealing too much of the conviction that had cost her everything. "You can make something beautiful that nobody uses, or you can make something functional that becomes part of people's lives. I'd rather build the second one." She was pulling out her tablet to show him preliminary sketches when a sudden gust of wind sent her papers scattering. Spencer moved to help her gather them, and their hands brushed over a blueprint. The contact lasted maybe 2 seconds, but Erica felt it like an electric current, a sudden awareness of him as more than just a potential client. His hands were larger than hers, scarred across the knuckles like someone who'd done actual construction work despite the expensive suit, and warm enough that she felt the heat through the paper. "Sorry," she said, pulling back too quickly and cursing herself for the reaction. This was professional. It had to stay professional. "No harm done." But Spencer's eyes held hers for a beat too long, and she saw something there that matched the flutter in her chest. Awareness, interest, the beginning of something that absolutely could not happen. They spent the next hour discussing her vision for the space, and Erica found herself relaxing into the conversation despite her determination to maintain distance. Spencer asked intelligent questions, challenged her assumptions in ways that made her think harder rather than feel defensive, and occasionally revealed glimpses of the man beneath the billionaire developer facade. "Why does this matter to you?" she asked when he pushed back on her suggestion to include a commercial kitchen. Most developers would see that as wasted space that doesn't generate revenue. Because communities die when they lose the ability to feed themselves and each other. Spencer's voice carried conviction that surprised her. "My grandfather made his fortune buying up properties cheap and selling them high. He left me billions and a legacy of destroyed neighborhoods. I'm trying to build something different." "Thank you," she managed, pulling the jacket closer. Thunder rolled again, and rain pounded harder. They were stuck here for the duration, standing too close in the small dry space, suddenly stripped of the professional distance that had been protecting them both. "Why do you care so much about these communities?" Spencer's question was quiet, intimate in a way that their earlier conversation hadn't been. "Frank said you work mostly pro bono now. That's not a sustainable business model." Erica chose her words carefully, skating close to truth without revealing everything. "Because buildings can hurt people. They can break families and destroy neighborhoods. I've seen it happen. I want to build things that do the opposite, that heal instead of hurt." Something in her voice must have revealed more than she intended, because Spencer's eyes sharpened. "You're speaking from experience." It wasn't a question. Erica looked away, watching rain create rivers in the dirt beyond their shelter. "I made mistakes that cost people everything. I can't fix that, but I can try to make sure it doesn't happen again." She expected judgment, skepticism, the kind of doubt that had followed her for 2 years. Instead, Spencer moved slightly closer, his voice dropping to something almost confessional. "My wife died 3 years ago. Cancer." He paused, and pain flickered across his face before his careful control reasserted itself. "On her deathbed, she told me she'd never loved me, that she married me for my family's money, that our daughter wasn't biologically mine." Erica's breath caught. She turned to look at him fully, seeing past the billionaire facade to the man who'd been devastated by betrayal. "I'm so sorry." "The thing is," Spencer continued, still staring out at the rain, "I spent 15 years believing a lie, thinking I knew someone, trusting my judgment about her character. And I was completely wrong. So when you talk about mistakes and trying to do better, I understand that more than you might think." Their eyes met, and something passed between them that had nothing to do with architecture or professional consulting. Recognition, maybe. Two people who'd been wounded learning to trust again, finding themselves unexpectedly drawn to each other, despite, or maybe because of, their shared caution. "Your daughter," Erica said carefully. "How is she handling all of it?" "She's 15 and angry." Spencer's smile was sad. "She looks at me and sees the man her mother lied to. Sometimes I think she's testing me, waiting to see if my love is conditional. If I'll stop being her father now that I know the truth. Will you?" "Never." The word came out fierce, absolute. "She's my daughter in every way that matters. Biology doesn't change 15 years of loving someone." He paused. "But I don't know how to convince her of that when she won't talk to me." Erica understood that pain intimately. Carrying guilt for hurting people you cared about, not knowing how to fix it. Maybe she needs to see you love someone again. See that her mother's betrayal didn't destroy your ability to trust. "Is that what you're doing?" Spencer asked. "Learning to trust again?" The question hung in the air between them, charged with implications they weren't quite ready to acknowledge. Erica was acutely aware of the rain-soaked clothing, the warm jacket around her shoulders, the way Spencer was looking at her like she was someone he wanted to understand completely. "I'm trying," she admitted. "It's harder than I expected." Spencer stepped closer, and suddenly, the partially constructed building felt much smaller. His hand lifted like he might touch her face, then fell back to his side. "Erica, I don't even know your last name." "Lance." The confession slipped out before she could stop it. Erica Lance. She watched his face, waiting for recognition to dawn, for him to connect her name to the EB building collapse scandal that had been all over the news 2 years ago. But Spencer just nodded slowly. Erica Lance, he repeated, like he was memorizing it. I want to hire you for this project, not as a consultant, but as the lead architect. Her pulse jumped. Mr. Kerrigan, I can't. My license is... I know about the license revocation. Frank told me. Spencer's voice was matter-of-fact. He also told me you were cleared of wrongdoing in the investigation, that you reported problems multiple times and were overruled, that your firm threw you under the bus to protect themselves. Erica's throat tightened. You knew. This whole time, you knew? I did my research before agreeing to meet you. I don't make decisions based on other people's verdicts. I make them based on what I see in front of me. His eyes held hers steadily. And what I see is someone who cares about doing things right, even when it costs her everything. That's exactly who I need. Tears burned behind Erica's eyes, but she blinked them back. The industry won't accept it. Your board, your investors, they'll question your judgment. Let them question. I'm the CEO. I make the final call. Spencer pulled out his phone, scrolling to something. There's one complication, though. My daughter, Chloe. She's working on an architecture portfolio for her college applications. She needs mentoring, someone who can teach her the real craft instead of just how to pass tests. Would you consider it? The question caught Erica off guard. You want me to work with your daughter, Mr. Kerrigan? Are you sure that's wise? Given everything? Call me Spencer. And yes, I'm sure. Chloe needs to see what integrity looks like in action. She needs someone who will challenge her and push her and show her that success isn't just about credentials and reputation. It's about being willing to do the right thing even when it costs you. Erica studied his face, searching for hidden motives or doubts. She found neither, just a man offering her exactly what she'd thought was lost forever, a chance to practice her craft, to mentor someone young and talented, to rebuild piece by piece what betrayal and circumstance had destroyed. Okay, she said, the word barely above a whisper. Yes, I'll do it. Spencer's smile transformed his face, chasing away the shadows of grief and betrayal that had been haunting his eyes. Good. We'll handle the licensing paperwork differently. Bring you on as a consultant officially while you do the real work. It's not uncommon for large projects. The rain was starting to ease, sunlight breaking through the clouds in shafts that illuminated the construction site in golden light. Spencer's jacket was still around Erica's shoulders, his heat still warming her, and neither of them seemed in a hurry to move apart despite the storm passing. I should go, Erica said, not moving. Yes, Spencer agreed, not moving either. Their eyes held, and for one suspended moment, Erica thought he might kiss her, wanted him to kiss her with an intensity that terrified her. But then he stepped back, creating careful distance, and the professional boundaries snapped back into place. I'll send you the contract details this afternoon, Spencer said, his voice back to business despite the lingering heat in his eyes. Can you start next week? I can start tomorrow, Erica replied, reluctantly shrugging out of his jacket and handing it back. Their fingers brushed again in the exchange, and that electric awareness sparked between them once more. Next week is fine. Spencer's smile held a hint of something that made her pulse race. Give yourself time to prepare. This is going to change your life, Erica. I want you to be ready for it. As she walked back to her car, soaked through and shivering despite the returning sun, Erica realized he was right. Everything was about to change. She'd just agreed to work for a billionaire developer who made her forget to be careful, to mentor his daughter, who was still healing from her mother's betrayal, to step back into the professional world that had rejected her so completely. And more terrifying than all of that, she'd felt something in that rain-soaked shelter, something that had nothing to do with architecture and everything to do with the way Spencer had looked at her. Like she was someone worth believing in, like she was someone worth knowing, like she was someone he wanted to understand completely, damaged past and all. That evening, sitting in her apartment with the contract Spencer had sent pulled up on her laptop, Erica allowed herself a moment of hope. The payment would solve her financial crisis, the work would let her practice her craft again, the mentoring would give her purpose beyond sending anonymous payments to families who didn't know her name. But the most dangerous thing Spencer Kerrigan was offering her wasn't any of those. It was the possibility that she might deserve a second chance, not just professionally, but personally. That being broken didn't mean being beyond repair. That somewhere in the ruins of who she'd been, she might find who she was supposed to become. Her phone buzzed with a text from Tessa. "Did you take the job?" Erica smiled, typing back, "I did. And Tessa, I think I'm in trouble." Good trouble or bad trouble? She thought about Spencer's eyes in the rain, his jacket around her shoulders, the way her entire body had responded to his proximity. "I'm not sure yet. Maybe both." Have you ever met someone and felt that instant, undeniable pull, even when your head told you to run the other direction? Tell me about that moment in the comments. Let me know where you're watching from, and hit subscribe if Spencer and Erica's chemistry is already drawing you in. Trust me, you won't want to miss what happens next. 1 week later, Erica stood in the gleaming glass tower that housed Kerrigan Industries' corporate headquarters, wearing her best interview suit and fighting the urge to run. The building itself was a masterpiece of sustainable design. Solar panels integrated seamlessly into the facade, green walls that filtered air naturally, spaces that invited collaboration without forcing it. Spencer's assistant, a kind-faced woman named Marie, had escorted her to a conference room on the 32nd floor where his senior team waited. Through the glass walls, Erica could see Charleston's skyline stretching toward the harbor, boats dotting the water like white birds. "They're ready for you," Marie said, opening the door. 6 faces turned toward Erica as she entered, and she felt the weight of their assessment immediately. These were Spencer's top architects, engineers, and project managers, people who'd built careers on credentials and reputation, now being asked to work with someone who'd lost both. Spencer stood at the head of the table, commanding the room without apparent effort. He'd traded last week's casual elegance for full corporate armor, charcoal suit, crisp white shirt, tie knotted perfectly. But when his eyes met Erica's, something warm flickered there before his professional mask reasserted control. "Everyone, this is Erica Lance. She'll be leading the Riverside Community Development Project." Spencer gestured for her to take the empty seat at his right hand. "Erica, this is the team who'll be supporting your vision." Supporting, not supervising. The distinction wasn't lost on anyone in the room, especially the silver-haired man who spoke first. "With all due respect, Mr. Kerrigan, Miss Lance's situation makes this arrangement unusual." His tone managed to be respectful and condescending simultaneously. "The Riverside Project is our largest community initiative. Shouldn't we assign someone with more current experience?" "Gerald raises a good point," a woman across the table added. Her nameplate read, "Sandra Martinez, Senior Engineer." "The liability concerns alone are being handled by our legal team," Spencer interrupted smoothly. "Erica's consulting arrangement has been structured to address all regulatory requirements. What I need from this team is support for her vision, not obstacles to its implementation." The temperature in the room dropped several degrees. Erica felt the resentment building like pressure before a storm. These people saw her as a threat, or worse, as Spencer's charity case. She could sit silently and let him fight her battles, or she could prove she belonged here. "May I?" She gestured to the display screen at the end of the room. Spencer nodded, curiosity flickering in his expression. Erica stood, pulling up the preliminary designs she'd spent the past week refining. "I understand your concerns. My last major project resulted in 3 deaths in a criminal investigation. If I were you, I'd question this decision too." The blunt acknowledgement caught them off guard. She could see Gerald and Sandra exchanging glances, unsure how to respond to someone who wasn't defensive or apologetic. "But here's what you should know." Erica clicked through her designs, explaining each choice with the passion that had drawn Spencer to her work in the first place. "I reported structural concerns about that building 3 times. I was overruled by senior partners who had financial relationships with the contractor using substandard materials. When the building collapsed, those same partners blamed me to protect themselves. The investigation cleared me, but my career was destroyed anyway." She paused, meeting each person's eyes in turn. "I can't change what happened, but I learned something from it, that doing the right thing matters more than keeping people comfortable. This project is about building spaces that serve communities, not developers. If that threatens anyone's ego or challenges standard practices, then yes, I'm going to be a problem. But I'm going to be a problem who designs buildings that don't kill people. The silence that followed felt different than before. Heavier, more thoughtful. Sandra leaned forward, studying the designs with new interest. "These sightline calculations," she said slowly. "You're prioritizing natural surveillance over maximum square footage." "Safety first, profit second," Erica confirmed. "Communities need spaces where parents can watch their kids play, where people feel secure enough to gather. You can't put a price on that." "Actually, you can," Gerald interjected, but his tone had softened slightly. "And it's usually too high for community projects to sustain." "Not if you're smart about it." Erica clicked to her budget analysis. "I've factored in long-term maintenance costs, energy efficiency, and community buy-in. Buildings that serve people well are protected by those same people. Vandalism drops, usage increases, the space becomes an asset rather than a liability." For the next hour, she walked them through her vision, fielding questions with a combination of technical expertise and genuine passion that slowly won over even the skeptics. By the time she finished, Gerald was nodding thoughtfully, and Sandra was making notes about structural modifications they could implement. "Well," Spencer said when the presentation ended, "I think that answers the experience question. Erica, excellent work. Gerald, Sandra, I want you two to serve as primary liaisons, schedule regular check-ins, and give her whatever resources she needs." As the meeting broke up, Erica gathered her materials, still trembling slightly from the adrenaline of essentially auditing her own failure in front of strangers. A hand appeared in her peripheral vision, offering one of her dropped pens. Spencer stood close enough that she could smell his cologne again, that subtle, expensive scent that seemed designed specifically to distract her from professional thoughts. "You didn't have to do that," he said quietly. "I would have handled the pushback." "I know, but I needed them to hear it from me, to understand that. I'm not hiding from what happened or pretending it didn't matter." Erica took the pen, their fingers brushing in an exchange that was starting to feel dangerously familiar. "Thank you for defending me, though. For believing I could do this." "I don't believe you can do this," Spencer corrected, his eyes holding hers with an intensity that made her forget they were standing in a glass-walled conference room where anyone could see. "I know you can. There's a difference." Before Erica could respond, his phone buzzed. Spencer glanced at the screen and his expression shifted, warmth replaced by concern tinged with frustration. "My daughter's school," he explained. "There's been an incident. Is she okay? Physically, yes. Emotionally?" He ran a hand through his hair, disrupting its perfect styling in a way that made him look younger and more vulnerable. "Chloe got into a fight with another student over a group project. Apparently she accused someone of stealing her work. Things escalated, and now the principal wants to discuss her behavioral issues." Erica remembered their conversation in the rain-soaked shelter, the pain in Spencer's voice when he'd talked about his daughter, testing whether his love was conditional. "Do you want me to come with you?" The offer surprised them both. Spencer studied her face, searching for something. "Why would you do that?" "Because you told me she needs to see what integrity looks like. Maybe she also needs to see that people can make mistakes and still be worth defending." Erica shrugged, trying to make it casual despite the way her heart was racing. "Plus, we're supposed to start working together on her portfolio anyway. Might as well meet under chaotic circumstances. Sets the tone." Spencer's smile was slow and devastating, transforming his carefully controlled features into something warm and genuine. "You're not what I expected, Erica Lance. Is that good or bad?" "I'm not sure yet." His voice dropped lower, intimate despite their public setting. "Maybe both." 30 minutes later, they walked into Palmetto Academy, Charleston's most prestigious private school, where tuition cost more than Erica earned in 6 months of her current consulting work. The building itself was classic Southern architecture, white columns, perfectly manicured grounds, an atmosphere of generations of wealth and privilege that made Erica hyper-aware of her discount store suit and twice-mended purse. Spencer moved through the space with the confidence of someone who belonged everywhere. But Erica noticed the way his jaw tightened when they passed displays of student achievements, academic awards, sports trophies, college acceptance letters. Chloe's name appeared exactly once on a list of honor roll students from 3 years ago, before her mother's death, before everything changed. The principal's office smelled like leather and furniture polish. Dr. Helen Richardson stood to greet them, her expression professionally sympathetic in a way that probably worked on most parents, but seemed to bounce off Spencer's controlled facade. "Mr. Kerrigan, thank you for coming so quickly." Dr. Richardson's eyes slid to Erica with poorly concealed curiosity. "And you are?" "Erica Lance. I'm working with Chloe on her architecture portfolio." The lie of omission came easily. Not exactly Spencer's girlfriend, not exactly just an employee, something undefined that made the principal's expression sharpen with interest. "I see. Well, please, sit." Dr. Richardson settled behind her imposing desk. "I'm afraid we have a concerning situation. Chloe's teacher reports that she's been increasingly withdrawn in class. Today, during a group presentation, she accused her project partner of stealing her design work. When the other student denied it, Chloe became verbally aggressive. There was some pushing before teachers intervened." Spencer's expression revealed nothing, but Erica saw his hands tighten on the chair arms. Was Chloe injured? No, and neither was the other student, thankfully. But Mr. Kerrigan, this kind of outburst is concerning. Combined with her declining participation and recent absences, I'm wondering if Chloe might benefit from speaking with the school counselor. Grief can manifest in unexpected ways, and with the anniversary of her mother's passing approaching— "My daughter doesn't need a counselor," Spencer interrupted, his voice still controlled but carrying an edge now. "She needs people to stop assuming every problem she has stems from her mother's death." Dr. Richardson's expression shifted to practiced patience. "I understand this is difficult, but we have to consider, did you look at the design work?" Erica's question cut through the building tension. Both Spencer and the principal turned to her in surprise. "You said Chloe accused her partner of stealing her work? Did anyone actually compare the designs to see if she was telling the truth?" A flicker of discomfort crossed the principal's face. "Miss Lance, I appreciate your concern, but this is really a matter between a student who's been accused of behavioral issues and the adults who are supposed to protect her." Erica leaned forward, channeling every ounce of professional authority she'd once wielded. "I'm an architect. I know intellectual property theft when I see it. Before we discuss counseling and grief responses, maybe we should establish whether Chloe's accusation has merit." Dr. Richardson's lips thinned. "The other student, Madison Cooper, comes from a very respected family. She's been on the honor roll since freshman year. I find it hard to believe that she would steal?" Spencer's voice was dangerously quiet. "Or that Chloe might be telling the truth." The principal had the grace to look uncomfortable. "I'm not making assumptions about anyone's character, Mr. Kerrigan. I'm simply trying to address a disciplinary situation." "Then get us the design." "Work," Erica said firmly. "Both versions. Let someone with actual expertise make the determination instead of basing it on which student has the better reputation." After a tense moment, Dr. Richardson called her assistant to bring the project files. While they waited, Erica felt Spencer's hand briefly touch her back, a gesture of gratitude hidden from the principal's view. The contact lasted maybe 3 seconds, but it sent warmth spreading through her entire body, a reminder that this protective instinct between them was becoming something more complicated than either had planned. The door opened, and a teenage girl entered. Chloe Kerrigan had her father's height and his striking features, but where Spencer's eyes were blue, hers were dark brown, a reminder of the biological truth that had shattered their family. Her natural hair was pulled back in a ponytail, and she wore the school uniform with deliberate carelessness, untucked shirt, loosened tie, and armor of studied indifference. Her gaze swept the room, landing on her father with an expression Erica couldn't quite read. Pain, maybe, or anger. Probably both. "Chloe," Spencer said, his voice gentling in a way Erica hadn't heard before. "Are you all right?" "Fine." The word came out clipped, defensive. Then her eyes found Erica, and confusion joined the mix of emotions on her face. "Who are you?" "Erica Lance. I'm an architect your father hired to work on a community project, and to help you with your portfolio." Erica kept her voice matter-of-fact, not warm, but not cold either. I heard there's a question about design work. Want to tell me what happened? Chloe's guard rose visibly. It doesn't matter. No one's going to believe me anyway. I will, Erica said simply. I've had my work stolen too. I know what it feels like to watch someone else take credit for your vision. Something flickered in Chloe's expression. Interest, maybe, or the beginning of trust. Madison and I were supposed to collaborate on a museum redesign project. I spent 3 weeks developing the concept. Adaptive reuse of a historic building, integrating modern sustainable features while preserving architectural integrity. I showed her my preliminary sketches so we could divide up the work. The next day, she presented the entire design to the teacher as her idea. Said I was supposed to be doing research, not design work. Do you have evidence of your original concepts? Erica asked. Digital files with timestamps, sketches in my notebook with dates. Chloe's voice was gaining strength. But Dr. Richardson said it didn't matter because Madison's version was more polished, so obviously she must have done the real work. Erica's jaw tightened. She looked at the principal. You said that to a student who accused someone of theft? That the thief's work being more polished proved they were the original creator? Dr. Richardson shifted uncomfortably. I said the presentation quality suggested significant independent development, which means exactly nothing in determining original authorship. Erica stood, moving to Chloe's side in a gesture of alliance that the teenager noticed immediately. Show me your work, both versions. For the next 20 minutes, Erica examined the designs with professional scrutiny. Chloe's original sketches were rough but brilliant, innovative thinking about how to preserve historical character while adding modern functionality. Madison's final presentation was indeed more polished, but it was also clearly derivative. Every major design element appeared in Chloe's earlier work, just refined and prettied up for presentation. This is textbook intellectual property theft, Erica announced, setting down the final page. Chloe developed the core concept. Madison took those ideas, added some superficial polish, and claimed them as her own original work. Any design professional would recognize it immediately. Dr. Richardson's expression hardened. Miss Lance, I appreciate your input, but you're not qualified to make that determination. We have policies and procedures. Then follow them, Spencer interrupted, his voice carrying the kind of authority that came from running billion-dollar companies. Have an independent architectural expert review the work. If they confirm what Erica just explained, I expect Madison to face appropriate consequences. And I expect an apology to my daughter for assuming she was lying. Mr. Kerrigan, I don't appreciate the implication that we've been unfair. You called my daughter behaviorally troubled and suggested counseling because she got angry that someone stole her work and got away with it. Spencer's control was starting to crack, revealing the fierce protectiveness underneath. If she'd been quiet about the theft, would we be having this conversation? Or is the real problem that she refused to let someone else's reputation matter more than the truth? The principal had no good answer to that. After several tense moments, she agreed to bring in an outside expert and suspend Madison's grade until the review was complete. It wasn't exactly the vindication Chloe deserved, but it was something. Outside the school, Chloe walked several steps ahead of them toward the parking lot, her shoulders rigid with emotion she was clearly fighting not to show. Spencer moved to follow her, but Erica touched his arm, stopping him. Let me, she said quietly. Sometimes it's easier to talk to someone who isn't your parent. Spencer hesitated, then nodded. Thank you. For everything in there. You didn't have to fight for her. Yes, I did. Erica met his eyes, seeing gratitude and something deeper there that made her pulse quicken. She reminded me of myself at that age, told the truth, got punished for it, learned that integrity doesn't always protect you from consequences. That's a hard lesson for 15. It's a hard lesson at any age. Erica squeezed his arm briefly, then released it before the more contact could become something more. Give me a few minutes with her. She caught up to Chloe near a massive oak tree at the edge of the parking lot. The girl had stopped walking and was staring at her phone, but her hands were shaking too much to actually read whatever was on the screen. Hey, Erica said softly. You okay? Why do you care? Chloe's voice was sharp, defensive. You don't even know me. True. But I know what it's like to watch someone steal your work and have people assume you're the liar. Erica leaned against the tree, giving Chloe space. 6 years ago, I designed a community center. My senior partners overruled my safety concerns because they had financial relationships with a contractor who was cutting corners. The building collapsed. 3 people died. And when investigators came looking for someone to blame, those same partners said I'd approved the substandard materials, made me the scapegoat to protect themselves. Chloe turned to look at her fully, suspicion warring with interest. Did anyone believe you? One person, my best friend Tessa. Everyone else thought I was lying to cover my mistakes. Erica's throat tightened with the memory. I lost my license, my career, my reputation. For 2 years, I've been working under the table, taking jobs no one else wants, sending most of my money to the families of the people who died, because I couldn't save them. That's not fair. Chloe's anger had shifted now, directed at the injustice instead of at Erica. You tried to stop it. You did the right thing. I did. But the right thing doesn't always protect you from consequences. Erica paused, choosing her next words carefully. Your dad told me about your mom, about what she said before she died. Chloe's entire body went rigid. He had no right. He's worried about you, and I think he wanted me to understand why you might not trust easily right now. Erica kept her voice gentle but honest. Your mom lied to both of you, made you question everything you thought was real. That's a special kind of betrayal. She made me question who I am. Chloe's voice broke slightly. If he's not my real dad, then who am I? What does that make me? His daughter. Erica said it with absolute certainty. Biology doesn't define family. Love does. Choice does. He's choosing you every single day, Chloe. That's what makes you his. Tears were streaming down Chloe's face now, all her careful armor crumbling. But what if I'm too much like her? What if I'm selfish and manipulative and... You're not. Erica moved closer, offering comfort without forcing it. You got angry because someone stole your work. That's integrity, not manipulation. You fought back when someone tried to take credit for your vision. That's strength, not selfishness. Don't let your mother's mistakes make you doubt your own character. Chloe was fully crying now, and Erica did what felt natural, pulled the girl into a hug. Chloe resisted for maybe 2 seconds before collapsing into the embrace, sobbing against Erica's shoulder with the kind of desperate grief that came from holding everything in for too long. Over Chloe's head, Erica saw Spencer standing by his car, watching them. The expression on his face was complex, gratitude, pain, and something else that made Erica's chest tighten. He was looking at her like she'd just given him something precious and unexpected, like she was someone who mattered not just professionally, but personally. Like she was someone he was starting to need. When Chloe finally pulled back, wiping her eyes with her sleeve, she managed a watery smile. You're not what I expected. Yeah, I'm getting that a lot today. Erica smiled back. Your dad wants me to help you with your portfolio. If you're interested, we could start this weekend. I'd like to see what you can do when someone isn't stealing your ideas. Okay. Chloe glanced toward her father, something shifting in her expression. Will you be around a lot, working with my dad? Probably. Is that okay with you? Chloe studied Erica's face with the kind of intensity that ran in the Kerrigan family. Are you dating him? The direct question caught Erica off guard. What? No, I'm just his architect. But you like him. It wasn't a question. I saw how you looked at him in the principal's office. Erica felt heat rising in her cheeks. Chloe, I don't think... It's okay if you do. Chloe's voice was quieter now, more vulnerable. He deserves someone who actually cares about him, who sees him as more than just money and status. You're not like that, are you? You're not using him? The question carried so much pain and fear that Erica's heart broke a little. No, sweetheart, I'm not using him, and I'm not going to hurt him, or you. That's a promise. Chloe nodded slowly, seeming to accept this. Then she did something unexpected, hugged Erica again, quickly, before turning and walking toward her father. Spencer met his daughter halfway, and Erica watched them embrace. Chloe said something that made Spencer's expression crumble with relief, and then they were both crying, holding each other in the middle of the parking lot while expensive cars drove past, and Palmetto Academy's perfectly maintained grounds bore witness to healing that had nothing to do with wealth or status. Erica turned away to give them privacy, her own eyes burning. She'd come to this meeting planning to maintain professional distance, to help without getting emotionally involved, to protect herself from caring too much about people who could hurt her. That plan was officially ruined. Her phone buzzed with a text from Tessa. "How's the first week going?" Erica typed back. "I met his daughter. She's brilliant and broken, and I want to protect her from everything." "And the dad?" Erica watched Spencer and Chloe walking toward her, both wiping their eyes, but smiling now, something fundamental having shifted between them in the past few minutes. When Spencer's eyes met hers across the parking lot, the gratitude and warmth in his gaze made her entire body respond in ways that had nothing to do with professional relationships. "The dad is going to be a problem," Erica replied to Tessa, "a really big problem." Good trouble or bad trouble? Erica thought about Spencer's jacket around her shoulders in the rain, his hand on her back in the principal's office, the way her name sounded in his voice. She thought about Chloe's raw vulnerability and fierce intelligence, about becoming part of something that felt dangerously close to family. "Both," she typed. "Definitely both." The rest of the week passed in a blur of design work and meetings, but Saturday morning found Erica standing on Spencer's doorstep with her portfolio bag and a flutter of nerves that had nothing to do with architecture. The house itself was stunning, modern Southern design that somehow honored traditional elements while creating something entirely new. Large windows invited natural light, a wraparound porch suggested Sunday mornings with coffee, and the grounds were landscaped with native plants that required minimal water. The door opened before she could knock, revealing Spencer in weekend casual, jeans that fit him entirely too well, and a navy Henley that made his blue eyes even more striking. His feet were bare, his hair slightly mussed like he'd been running his hands through it, and the whole effect was devastatingly attractive in a way his business suits couldn't match. "You're early," he said, but his smile suggested he didn't mind. "Force of habit. I'm always afraid I'll be late, so I overcompensate." Erica was acutely aware of her own casual outfit. Comfortable pants, a soft sweater, her natural hair down instead of in its usual bun. She told herself the extra care she'd taken getting ready was about making a good impression on Chloe, not about how Spencer might see her. She'd mostly believed it. "Come in." Chloe's in the home office setting up her portfolio materials. Fair warning, she's nervous about this. "That makes two of us." Erica followed him inside, taking in the house's interior. It was beautifully furnished but felt somehow empty, like a stage set rather than a home. There were no family photos, no personal touches, nothing that suggested the people living here had really settled into the space. Spencer noticed her assessment. "Lauren decorated it. After she died, I couldn't bring myself to change anything. Lately, though, I'm starting to think maybe we should. Make it feel like ours instead of hers." "That's healthy," Erica said. "Grief doesn't mean preserving everything exactly as it was. Sometimes it means creating something new." They'd reached the home office, a large room with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the garden. Chloe sat at a massive desk, surrounded by sketchbooks, digital tablets, and what looked like 3 different architecture software programs running simultaneously. "Show off," Erica teased, gently setting down her bag. "Which program do you actually prefer?" Chloe looked up, relief crossing her face at Erica's casual approach. "The one that doesn't crash every 5 minutes. So, none of them?" Spoken like a true architect. Erica pulled up a chair beside her. "Okay, let's see what you got." For the next 2 hours, they worked through Chloe's portfolio, and Erica was genuinely impressed. The girl had raw talent and innovative thinking, but her designs were cautious, careful, designed to please teachers rather than express her actual vision. "This is good," Erica said, pointing to a school redesign project. "But it's safe. You're designing what you think they want to see, not what you actually believe the space should be." Chloe's defenses rose immediately. "That's what gets you into good colleges, safe designs with perfect execution." Maybe. Or maybe it gets you into colleges that produce architects who design beautiful buildings nobody actually wants to use. Erica pulled out her own tablet, showing Chloe some of her early work. Raw, passionate, sometimes technically imperfect, but always honest. This was my portfolio from your age. My teachers hated half of it because I was more interested in creating spaces that served communities than in showing off technical skills. Did you get into a good school? Full scholarship to MIT, because someone there saw past the rough edges to the passion underneath. Erica met Chloe's eyes. You have that same passion. I saw it in your museum project, the one Madison stole. Don't hide it to make admissions officers comfortable. Let them see who you really are. After lunch, Chloe excused herself to work on revisions to her portfolio, leaving Erica and Spencer alone in the kitchen with the comfortable mess of a family meal. They cleaned up together, falling into an easy rhythm. He washed, she dried, their bodies moving around each other in the confined space with an awareness that was becoming harder to ignore. Thank you, Spencer said as he handed her a plate, for everything you did this week. The presentation to my team, defending Chloe at school, today with her portfolio. You didn't have to do any of that. Yes, I did. Erica focused on drying the plate instead of looking at him. She needed someone to fight for her, and your team needed to see that I could handle scrutiny. It's all part of the job. Is that what this is? Spencer's voice had dropped lower, intimate in a way that made her pulse quicken. Just a job? Erica set down the plate, finally meeting his eyes. They were standing close enough that she could feel the heat radiating from his body, could see the flecks of darker blue in his irises, could count his heartbeats and the pulse at his throat. What else would it be? She asked, the words barely above a whisper. Spencer's hand came up to her face, his thumb tracing her cheekbone with devastating gentleness. I don't know yet, but I know it's more than professional. I know I think about you constantly. I know seeing you with my daughter today, being exactly what she needed, made me feel things I haven't felt since... He stopped, seeming to search for words. Made me feel things I've never felt, actually. Not even with Lauren. Erica's breath caught. Every instinct she had screamed at her to step back, to maintain distance, to protect herself from caring too much about people who could hurt her. But standing in Spencer's kitchen, with his hand on her face and his eyes full of vulnerability, she couldn't make herself move away. Spencer, I work for you. You're my client. This can't... Then I'll change the arrangement. His other hand found her waist, and suddenly they were pressed together. No space between them. Everything she'd been trying to resist becoming impossible to deny. I'll restructure the contract, make you an independent consultant instead of directly employed. Whatever it takes to remove the ethical complications. It's not just ethics. Erica forced herself to be honest, even as her body betrayed her by leaning into his touch. You're still healing from your wife's betrayal. I'm still dealing with losing everything I built. We're both broken in ways that make this dangerous. Maybe that's exactly why it could work. Spencer's forehead came to rest against hers, their breath mingling in the small space between them. We both know what betrayal costs. We both understand what it means to have your judgment questioned and your character attacked. Maybe two broken people can help each other heal. Or maybe we'll just break each other worse. But even as she said it, Erica's hands were coming up to rest on his chest, feeling his heart hammering beneath her palms in a rhythm that matched her own racing pulse. Erica. The way he said her name sounded like a prayer and a plea and a promise all at once. Tell me you don't feel this. Tell me I'm imagining the way you look at me, the electricity every time we touch. Tell me you don't want this as much as I do. She should tell him exactly that. Should lie convincingly and protect them both from the complications that came with mixing professional relationships and personal feelings. Should remember that she'd built her life on integrity and honesty, even when it cost her everything. I can't, she admitted, the words feeling like surrender and victory simultaneously. I can't tell you that because it wouldn't be true. Spencer, I feel this. God help me, I feel this so much it terrifies me. His response was to close the remaining distance between them, his mouth finding hers in a kiss that was nothing like the careful, controlled man she'd met 3 weeks ago. This kiss was hunger and need and months of tension finally finding release. His hands tangled in her hair, pulling her closer, and Erica heard herself make a sound that was pure want, all her careful restraint crumbling under the assault of his lips and tongue and the solid strength of his body against hers. She kissed him back with equal desperation, her fingers gripping his shirt, pulling pulling him closer, even though they were already pressed together with no space between them. Every rational thought was drowned out by sensation, the taste of wine on his tongue, the scratch of afternoon stubble against her skin, the way his hands spanned her waist and made her feel both delicate and powerful simultaneously. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Spencer kept his forehead pressed to hers. "I should apologize for that." "Don't you dare!" Erica's voice came out rougher than usual, still affected by the kiss. "If you apologize, it means you regret it." "Do you regret it?" "Not even a little bit." His smile was devastating. "But Erica, I need you to understand something. If we do this, if we cross this line, I'm all in. I don't do casual. I don't do temporary. When I commit to something, or someone, it's completely. Can you handle that?" The question should have sent her running. After everything she'd been through, after learning how thoroughly people could betray the trust you gave them, she should protect herself from this level of commitment. But looking at Spencer's face, seeing the same fear and hope and desperate want that she felt, Erica found herself nodding. "Yes," she said simply, "I can handle that. Can you handle dating someone the industry destroyed? Someone who'll bring baggage and controversy and complicated history to your perfectly ordered life?" "My life isn't perfectly ordered. It's a carefully constructed facade covering chaos and grief, and a daughter who's still learning to trust me again." Spencer's hands framed her face, his thumbs stroking her cheekbones. "You're not baggage, Erica. You're the first real thing I've felt in years. Don't diminish that." They kissed again, slower this time, tasting and exploring rather than devouring. Erica felt something fundamental shifting inside her, walls she'd built crumbling under the gentle assault of Spencer's tenderness. She'd spent 2 years believing she didn't deserve happiness, that her failure to prevent those 3 deaths meant she should punish herself forever. But Spencer was looking at her like she was someone precious and valuable, and for the first time since the building collapse, she allowed herself to believe it might be true. A throat clearing from the doorway made them spring apart like guilty teenagers. Chloe stood there with her arms crossed, trying to look stern but unable to hide her smile. "So, just his architect, huh?" she said to Erica. "That's some very professional consulting you two are doing." Erica felt heat flooding her face. "Chloe, I can explain." "You don't have to." Chloe moved into the kitchen, grabbing a water bottle from the refrigerator with studied casualness. "I'm 15, not blind. You've been making eyes at each other for weeks. It was inevitable." Spencer ran a hand through his hair, looking adorably flustered in a way Erica suspected he rarely allowed anyone to see. "Chloe, Erica and I, this is new. We're figuring it out. But I need to know, are you okay with this? With me dating someone?" Chloe considered the question seriously, all her teenage bravado fading to reveal the vulnerable girl underneath. "Is she going to lie to you? Use you for money and status like Mom did?" "No," Spencer said with absolute certainty. "She's not." "Then yeah, I'm okay with it." Chloe looked at Erica directly. "But if you hurt him, I'll make your life hell, just so we're clear on that." "Crystal clear." Erica met the girl's fierce gaze. "And for what it's worth, I don't take this lightly. Your dad is special. So are you. I'm not going to mess this up." "Good." Chloe's smile returned. "Now can you two stop being awkward and help me with this museum redesign? I'm trying to show my actual vision instead of playing it safe, and it's harder than I thought." They spent the rest of the afternoon working on Chloe's portfolio, but the dynamic had shifted. Now, when Spencer's hand brushed Erica's while reaching for a pencil, they didn't jump apart guiltily. When their eyes met across the desk, they allowed the warmth to show. And when Chloe made teasing comments about them being adorable, they accepted it with the kind of comfortable embarrassment that felt dangerously close to family. As evening approached and Erica prepared to leave, Spencer walked her to her car while Chloe tactfully remained inside. "So," Spencer said, leaning against her car door in a way that effectively trapped her between metal and solid masculine warmth. "We're doing this? Really doing this?" "Apparently." Erica smiled up at him, allowing herself to touch his chest in a gesture that felt both familiar and thrillingly new. "Though we should probably establish some ground rules, like not making out in your office during business hours." "Agreed. and keeping displays of affection minimal around the team until everyone adjusts to you being lead architect? Spencer's hands settled on her waist with possessive comfort. But outside of work? I want to take you to dinner, real dinner, at a restaurant where I can look at you across a table and not have to pretend I'm only interested in your architectural vision. When? Tomorrow night? I have a board meeting until 6, but I could pick you up at 7:30. Erica felt a flutter of nerves that had nothing to do with fear and everything to do with anticipation. It's a date. But Spencer, I need you to understand that this isn't going to be easy. Your mother is going to object. People in the industry are going to talk. There will be assumptions about why you really hired me, about what I'm really after. Can you handle that? I've spent 3 years being whispered about, having my judgment questioned, watching people speculate about my marriage and my daughter's paternity. Spencer's voice was firm, certain. I learned that other people's opinions matter a lot, less than the truth you know in your heart. And the truth is, you're brilliant and ethical and exactly who I need, both professionally and personally. Let them talk. He kissed her then, slow and thorough and sweet, and Erica felt the last of her resistance crumbling. This was happening. They were happening. Despite every rational reason to protect themselves, despite the complications and the risks and the very real possibility that they could hurt each other, they were choosing to try. When she finally drove away, Erica caught Spencer in her rearview mirror, standing in his driveway and watching her go with an expression that made her chest tight with feeling she wasn't quite ready to name. Her phone buzzed with a text before she'd made it to the end of his street. "Drive safely. I'm already counting the hours until tomorrow night." She smiled, typing back with one hand while stopped at a red light. "Me too. Thank you for today. For everything. Thank you for giving us a chance. Both of us." The us encompassed more than just Spencer, Erica realized. It included Chloe and the fragile family they were trying to rebuild, and the possibility that maybe broken people could heal each other if they were brave enough to try. That night, alone in her apartment, Erica looked at the photo on her wall. Younger, confident, standing in front of the building that had destroyed her career. But for the first time in 2 years, she didn't see it as only a reminder of failure. She saw it as evidence that she'd survived, that she'd learned, that she'd become someone who valued integrity over success and who was finally allowing herself to believe she might deserve a second chance at happiness. Her phone buzzed again, another text from Spencer. "Good night, Erica. Sweet dreams," she typed back. "Good night. And Spencer, I'm glad you found me. I'm glad you let yourself be found." Erica fell asleep smiling, her dreams for once filled not with collapsing buildings and accusations, but with blue eyes and gentle hands, and the possibility of building something beautiful from the ruins of their separate pasts. Chapter 2. Sunday evening arrived with the kind of nervous anticipation Erica hadn't felt in years. She stood in front of her closet, which suddenly seemed inadequate for a first date with a billionaire. Most of her professional wardrobe had been sold during the lean months after losing her license, leaving her with limited options that screamed, budget-conscious architect trying to look presentable. Her phone rang, Tessa's face filling the screen. "Tell me you're not wearing the black dress," Tessa said without preamble. "How did you— because you wear the black dress to everything. Interviews, consultations, funerals. Girl, this is a date, not a business meeting. You need something that says, I'm a brilliant woman who also happens to look incredible." "I don't have anything that says that." Erica sank onto her bed, suddenly overwhelmed. "Tessa, what am I doing? He's a billionaire. I'm living paycheck to paycheck. He has a daughter who needs stability, not her dad dating someone whose life is still a disaster. This is insane." "You know what's insane? Giving up on happiness because you think you don't deserve it." Tessa's voice gentled. "Erica, you've spent 2 years punishing yourself for something that wasn't your fault. Maybe it's time to let someone see you as more than your worst moment." After Tessa hung up, but not before making Erica promise to send photos of whatever she wore, Erica chose a deep plum dress she'd forgotten she owned. It was simple but elegant, hugging her curves without being overly formal. She left her natural hair down in soft curls, applied makeup with a careful hand, and tried not to think about how Spencer's eyes would look when he saw her. The doorbell rang at exactly 7:30. Spencer stood in her hallway looking devastating in dark slacks and a charcoal sweater that somehow made his blue eyes even more striking. His gaze traveled over her slowly, appreciation clear in his expression. "You're beautiful," he said simply, offering her a bouquet of flowers that weren't roses but something more thoughtful, a mixed arrangement of native South Carolina wildflowers. "These are perfect." Erica inhaled their delicate scent, touched by the choice. "How did you know I prefer wildflowers to hothouse roses?" "Because you design buildings that honor their natural environment instead of dominating it. I figured your taste in flowers would follow the same philosophy." Spencer's smile was warm. "Plus, Chloe said you'd appreciate something that required actual thought instead of just money." "She's right." Erica found a vase for the flowers, acutely aware of her modest apartment compared to Spencer's mansion. The space was clean but cramped, her furniture second-hand, her decorations minimal. If he noticed the contrast, his expression revealed nothing but comfort at being in her space. They drove to Magnolia, one of Charleston's most acclaimed restaurants, where Spencer had reserved a private table overlooking the waterfront. The hostess greeted him by name, and Erica noticed the subtle shift in atmosphere as they passed through the dining room, heads turning, whispers starting, speculation beginning. "Ignore them," Spencer said quietly, his hand settling on her lower back. "They're just curious because I haven't been on a date in 3 years. And because your date is the disgraced architect who lost her license after 3 people died." Erica kept her voice light, but the reminder stung. Spencer stopped walking, turning to face her fully despite their very public setting. "You're not disgraced, you're vindicated. There's a difference, and anyone who can't see that isn't worth our attention." The hostess seated them at a corner table with floor-to-ceiling windows showcasing Charleston Harbor at sunset. The view was breathtaking, but Erica found herself unable to look away from Spencer's face as he ordered wine with easy confidence, discussing vintages with their server like someone who'd spent years learning to appreciate the finer things without being pretentious about it. "Tell me something," he said once they were alone. "What made you want to become an architect?" Erica traced the rim of her water glass, considering the question. "When I was 8, my family lived in a neighborhood the city wanted to demolish for a highway expansion. They called it urban renewal, but really it was just destroying a community to make suburban commuters' lives easier. I watched my parents fight to save our home, watched them lose, watched everything familiar disappear." She paused, the memory still painful after nearly 3 decades. "We moved to public housing that was badly designed. No natural light, no private outdoor space, buildings that felt like warehouses for storing poor people rather than homes for families. I promised myself I'd learn to design better, to create spaces that honored the people who lived in them instead of treating them like problems to be managed." Spencer's hand found hers across the table, his thumb tracing gentle circles on her palm. "And you did. Every design I've seen from you treats people with dignity. Even when you were at the firm, your work stood out for that humanity. Fat lot of good it did me when the building collapsed." The bitterness slipped out before she could stop it. "The building collapsed because a contractor used substandard materials and your senior partners valued profit over safety. Not because you failed." Spencer's voice was firm. "You reported concerns. You did everything right. The system failed you, not the other way around." Erica felt tears threatening and blinked them back. "Some days I believe that. Other days I think maybe if I'd pushed harder, been more insistent, refused to back down, then they would have fired you and used the same substandard materials anyway. And 3 people still would have died, except you wouldn't have the evidence of having reported it. You couldn't have saved them, Erica. But you tried, and that matters." Their food arrived, interrupting the heavy conversation. They talked about lighter things: Chloe's progress on her portfolio, Spencer's ongoing battle with his board about prioritizing sustainable development, Erica's siblings scattered across the country. The conversation flowed easily, punctuated by comfortable silences and lingering eye contact that made Erica's pulse quicken. "Can I ask you something personal?" Spencer said over dessert. "The payments you've been making to the victims' families, how long do you plan to continue?" Erica stiffened slightly. "As long as they need it. Sarah Chen still has 3 kids to raise alone. Rebecca Washington's twins deserved to finish college. James Rodriguez's parents shouldn't have to work themselves into early graves because they lost their son. It's not your responsibility to support them. No, but it's the right thing to do. Erica met his eyes directly. Those deaths happened because of decisions made by people I worked with. I can't bring back Michael or Rebecca or James, but I can make sure their families don't lose everything else too. Spencer studied her face for a long moment. You're bankrupting yourself to help them. I'm making amends. By punishing yourself financially? Spencer's voice was gentle but challenging. Erica, atonement doesn't require you to suffer. You can help them while also rebuilding your own life. Can I? The question came out more vulnerable than she'd intended. Because some days it feels like I should have lost everything. Like somehow surviving my career intact would be obscene when 3 people are dead. Spencer's hand tightened on hers. Survivor's guilt is real, but it's also a lie. You didn't survive instead of them. You survived despite a system designed to protect the powerful at the expense of the vulnerable. Don't let that system steal your future, too. Before Erica could respond, a woman's voice cut through their intimate moment. Spencer Kerrigan, I heard you were dining here tonight. They both looked up to find an elegant blonde woman approaching their table. She was stunning in the way that came from genetic lottery and expensive maintenance. Perfect bone structure, flawless skin, designer dress that probably cost more than Erica's monthly rent, but her smile didn't reach her eyes, and there was something calculating in the way she assessed Erica. Vanessa. Spencer's voice went flat, all the warmth from moments before disappearing. What do you want? Just saying hello to an old friend. Vanessa's gaze swept over Erica with barely concealed disdain. Aren't you going to introduce me to your companion? Erica Lance, this is Vanessa Cooper. Vanessa and I were briefly engaged several years ago. Spencer's tone made it clear the relationship was ancient history. Before his wife's unfortunate revelations, of course. Vanessa's smile turned sharp. I'm sure he's told you all about that scandal, how Lauren admitted on her deathbed that she'd only married him for money, that his daughter isn't actually his. Such a difficult time for the family. Erica felt anger flash hot in her chest at the casual cruelty, but Spencer squeezed her hand warningly. That's enough, Vanessa. Whatever you came over here to accomplish, it's not going to work. Spencer's voice carried steel beneath the polite surface. Erica is my lead architect on the Riverside project and someone I care about deeply. Neither of those facts is open for your commentary. Lead architect? Vanessa's eyebrows rose. How bold of you, hiring someone who lost her license after that building collapse. I'm sure the board will have interesting things to say about that choice. The board answers to me, not the other way around. Spencer stood, pulling out his wallet and dropping cash on the table that was probably 3 times their bill. We're leaving. Erica, let's go. As they walked out, Vanessa called after them. Spencer, darling, you always did have a weakness for lost causes. I hope this one doesn't end as badly as the last. In the parking lot, Spencer was vibrating with barely controlled fury. I'm sorry, that was unacceptable. Vanessa has always been jealous, Erica interrupted. She saw you moving on and couldn't stand it. That doesn't excuse her behavior. Spencer opened her car door, then paused. Did what she said about Lauren bother you? About the scandal? About your wife using you? Or about Chloe's paternity? Erica touched his face gently. Spencer, I already knew all of that. You told me yourself. What bothers me is watching someone try to use your pain as a weapon. That's what's unacceptable. Something shifted in Spencer's expression, the fury giving way to something softer and more vulnerable. Come home with me, please. I don't want this evening to end with Vanessa's poison. Erica should have said no, should have insisted on going home, maintaining some boundaries, not rushing into physical intimacy before they had established emotional footing. But looking at Spencer's face in the parking lot lights, seeing the need and hope and something deeper beginning to bloom there, she found herself nodding. Okay, yes. The drive to Spencer's house was quiet but charged with anticipation. His hand found hers across the console, their fingers intertwining with familiar comfort despite how new everything between them was. When they arrived, Chloe was already in her room. A pre-arranged sleepover, Spencer admitted, that he'd organized hoping the evening would go well enough that Erica might want to come back with him. Presumptuous, Erica teased, but she was smiling. Optimistic, Spencer corrected, pulling her close in the privacy of his foyer. There's a difference. He kissed her then, slow and deep and thorough, walking her backward until she was pressed against the door with his body covering hers. Erica made a sound that was pure want, her hands sliding under his sweater to find warm skin and defined muscle underneath. Bedroom? Spencer murmured against her lips. Couch, Erica countered, remembering their almost moment during their first meeting. I have unfinished business with your couch. Spencer's laugh was low and delighted. He swept her up into his arms, an unexpectedly romantic gesture that made Erica gasp and cling to his shoulders, and carried her to the living room. The space was lit only by moonlight streaming through the windows, casting everything in silver and shadow. He set her down gently on the plush sofa, following her down to cover her body with his. They kissed with escalating urgency, hands exploring through layers of clothing that suddenly felt like barriers rather than protection. Spencer's sweater came off first, revealing the body Erica had been imagining since that rain-soaked encounter, weeks ago. Broad shoulders, defined chest, the kind of strength that came from actual physical work rather than just gym training. You're staring, Spencer said, but his smile suggested he didn't mind. You're worth staring at. Erica pulled him back down, needing his weight and heat and the solid reality of him against her. They kissed and touched with growing desperation, but when Spencer's hand found the zipper of her dress, he paused. Tell me if this is too fast, he said, his voice rough with desire but his eyes serious. Tell me if you need to slow down. Don't slow down. Erica arched into his touch. Spencer, I want this. I want you. The zipper descended slowly, his fingers tracing the line of her spine as fabric parted. Erica felt exposed and powerful simultaneously, watching Spencer's eyes darken with want as more of her skin was revealed. Her dress pooled around her waist, leaving her in just her bra, and the knowledge that she was taking a leap of faith that terrified and exhilarated her in equal measure. Spencer's mouth found her collarbone, her shoulder, the sensitive spot where her neck met her jaw. His hands were everywhere, spanning her waist, tracing her ribs, learning the geography of her body with focused attention that made her feel worshipped rather than just desired. You're incredible, he whispered against her skin. So beautiful it hurts to look at you sometimes. Erica's response was cut off by the sudden buzz of Spencer's phone on the coffee table. They both froze, breathing hard, torn between ignoring it and acknowledging that only emergencies called at 10 o'clock on a Sunday night. It's Chloe's ringtone, Spencer said reluctantly, reaching for the phone. I have to check. The text message was brief. Dad, I'm fine, but can you come get me? The sleepover is weird and I want to come home. Sorry. Spencer showed Erica the message, frustration and parental responsibility warring on his face. I'm sorry. I have to go get her. She wouldn't ask if she didn't really need me. Of course you do. Erica was already sitting up, adjusting her dress, trying to ignore the ache of unfulfilled desire. She comes first, always. Come with me? Spencer's voice held a question and a plea. Please, I don't want you to think I'm running away from this. 20 minutes later, they pulled up to a house in an upscale neighborhood where a party was clearly in full swing despite the sleepover pretense. Loud music pulsed through the walls and teenagers milled around the front yard in various states of intoxication. Chloe emerged from the house immediately, her face relieved when she saw Spencer's car. She climbed into the back seat, then noticed Erica in the passenger seat and froze. Oh God, I interrupted your date. Dad, I'm so sorry. Don't apologize for making good choices, Spencer said firmly, pulling away from the curb. If you're uncomfortable somewhere, you call me, always. That's never an interruption. But you and Erica were... Chloe's face flushed. I mean, you guys were obviously having dinner, Erica supplied smoothly, turning to face Chloe. And now we're all having a rescue mission together. Want to tell us what made you uncomfortable? Chloe hesitated, then spoke in a rush. Madison Cooper's older sister was hosting. I didn't know until I got there. Everyone was drinking and some people were using other stuff, and Madison kept making comments about how I must be so glad my dad's dating someone, since it proved he wasn't damaged goods anymore after Mom's confession. Spencer's hands tightened on the steering wheel. That girl needs to learn when to keep her mouth shut. She's not wrong, though, Chloe said quietly. Everyone at school talks about it, about Mom and what she said about you and about me not really being yours. Madison just says it to my face instead of behind my back. Erica twisted fully in her seat, catching Chloe's eyes. You know what I learned when my career was destroyed? People who define you by your worst moments or your most painful secrets aren't worth listening to. Their opinion says more about them than about you. Easy to say, harder to believe when you're surrounded by it every day. I know. Trust me, I know. Erica paused, choosing her words carefully. But Chloe, you called your dad to get you out of there. You made a good choice instead of staying somewhere that made you uncomfortable just to fit in. That takes more strength than those kids at that party will ever understand. Chloe was quiet for a moment, processing. Then, are you guys really dating? Like, seriously dating? Spencer glanced at Erica, a question in his eyes. She nodded slightly and he answered Chloe with calm certainty. Yes, we're seriously dating. Is that okay with you? Yeah. Chloe's voice was small, but sincere. Yeah, it's okay. Better than okay, actually. Erica's good for you. She makes you smile more. And she's not fake like the other women Grandma Olivia keeps trying to set you up with. Your grandmother's going to have opinions about this, Spencer warned. Grandma Olivia has opinions about everything. Doesn't mean we have to care. Chloe leaned forward between the seats. But seriously, Erica, if you're going to date my dad, you need to know what you're getting into. Grandma's going to investigate your entire life, find every mistake you've ever made, and use it to try to break you up. Then she'll find out I've already made my biggest mistakes publicly. Erica kept her voice light, not much left to use as ammunition. Don't underestimate her, Chloe said seriously. She made Mom's life hell for years, trying to prove she wasn't good enough for Dad, and Mom came from money and the right family. She trailed off, seeming to realize how insulting that might sound. I come from nothing and have a destroyed career, Erica finished calmly. Your grandmother is going to hate me on sight. But Chloe, I'm not dating your grandmother. I'm dating your dad. As long as he and you are okay with this, other people's opinions don't matter. Spencer reached across the console and squeezed her hand. That's exactly right. Back at the house, Chloe headed upstairs after extracting promises that they'd work on her portfolio again the following weekend. Alone in the kitchen, Spencer pulled Erica into his arms, resting his forehead against hers. This isn't how I hoped tonight would end, he admitted. No, but it's how it needed to end. Chloe needed you, and you were there for her. That's more important than any romantic plans. Erica kissed him softly. Besides, we have time. All the time we need. Do we? Spencer's voice carried an edge of vulnerability. Because everyone keeps warning you about how complicated my life is, how difficult my mother will make things, how much scrutiny we'll face. Maybe they're right. Maybe I'm being selfish dragging you into this mess. Stop. Erica's voice was firm. Spencer, I've spent 2 years being warned away from things, jobs, projects, relationships, anything that might expose me to more judgment or failure. I'm done living that way. Yes, your life is complicated. Yes, your mother will probably hate me. Yes, people will talk. But you know what? Let them. Because being with you feels right in a way nothing has felt right in years, and I'm not giving that up because it might be difficult. Spencer's smile was slow and devastating. You're sure? I'm terrified, Erica admitted, but I'm sure. They kissed again, tender now rather than urgent, a promise of future intimacy rather than immediate consummation. When Erica finally left for home, it was after midnight, and her lips were swollen from kisses, and her heart was full of something that felt dangerously close to falling in love. The following week brought a whirlwind of project meetings and design work that kept Erica too busy to worry much about Vanessa's threats or Olivia's inevitable disapproval. The Riverside community development was taking shape beautifully. Affordable housing units that prioritized natural light and private outdoor space, a community center with commercial kitchens and flexible event spaces, playgrounds designed by incorporating feedback from actual neighborhood families. Gerald and Sandra, initially skeptical, had become genuine allies. During a Thursday afternoon meeting, Sandra pulled Erica aside. "I owe you an apology," the engineer said bluntly. "I judged you based on reputation instead of work. That was unfair and unprofessional." "I appreciate that," Erica replied, surprised and touched. "For what it's worth, this is the best community design I've worked on in 20 years. You actually listen to what people need instead of imposing what you think looks impressive." Sandra paused. "Spencer was right to hire you, and for what it's also worth, everyone on the team can see how he looks at you. It's good for him. He's been half dead inside since his wife died. You've brought him back to life." The observation made Erica's chest tighten with feelings she wasn't quite ready to name. She and Spencer had been careful about public displays at the office, but apparently their connection was obvious anyway. That evening, Spencer took her to dinner again, this time at a small Italian restaurant where they were unlikely to run into anyone from their social circles. They talked about Chloe's college applications, about Spencer's ongoing battle with his board over sustainable development priorities, about Erica's siblings and their various life dramas. "Tell me about your parents," Spencer said over dessert. "You mentioned them briefly, but never really talked about them." Erica smiled, warmth flooding through her at the memories. "My dad drove a city bus for 35 years. My mom cleaned houses for wealthy families. They worked constantly, but somehow always made us feel like we had enough. Dad would tell us stories about the people on his bus route, turning every ride into an adventure. Mom taught us that there's dignity in any honest work, that our worth wasn't determined by our income." They sound wonderful. They are. They live in Florida now, retired finally. I haven't told them about the building collapse fallout. Didn't want them to worry or feel like they needed to help financially when they barely have enough for themselves. Erica paused. "I should probably tell them about you, though. Mom's going to have opinions about me dating a billionaire." "Good opinions or concerned opinions?" "Probably both. She'll be happy I'm moving on from the disaster but worried about the class difference. She'll want to make sure you see me as an equal, not as someone to rescue or a project to fix." Spencer's hand found hers across the table. "I see you as someone brilliant and strong who challenges me to be better. Someone I'm falling in love with more every day." "Is that equal enough?" Erica's breath caught. "Spencer, I know it's fast. I know we said we'd take things slow. But Erica, I'm 40 years old. I've been married, had my heart broken, raised a daughter through unimaginable pain. I know what I want now in a way I didn't at 25. And what I want is you." "I'm falling for you too," Erica admitted, the words feeling like both liberation and terror. "So fast it scares me. After everything that's happened, I thought I'd be more careful, more guarded. But you make me want to be brave." They left the restaurant hand in hand, but as they approached Spencer's car, Erica noticed someone standing nearby. A man with a camera, professional-grade equipment, clearly waiting for them. "Mr. Kerrigan," the photographer called out, "is it true you're dating the architect who lost her license? Can you comment on whether the Riverside project is compromised by your personal relationship?" Spencer's jaw tightened, but before he could respond, more photographers emerged from seemingly nowhere. Flashes erupted, questions shouted, creating chaos in the restaurant's parking lot. "Get in the car," Spencer said quietly to Erica, his hand protective on her back. But the damage was done. By the time they reached Spencer's house, photos were already circulating on social media. Erica and Spencer, leaving the restaurant together, his arm around her, her face clearly visible despite the poor lighting. "Kerrigan Industries CEO dating disgraced architect," read the first headline Erica saw on her phone. The article was brutal, questioning Spencer's judgment, speculating about whether he'd hired her for her expertise or for other reasons, rehashing every detail of the building collapse investigation. "Don't read that garbage," Spencer said, taking her phone away gently. "It's designed to get clicks, not report truth." "But they're not entirely wrong." Erica's voice was small. "I am disgraced. I did lose my license. People are going to question why you're with me, whether it's affecting your professional decisions. Let them question. I know the truth." Spencer pulled her into his arms. "You're the most ethical architect I've ever worked with. The Riverside project is succeeding because of your brilliance, not despite your past. And our relationship is no one's business but ours." Erica wanted to believe him, But the comments on the articles were vicious. People speculated about her using Spencer for money, about him having a savior complex, about the whole relationship being a publicity stunt. Reading them felt like being flayed alive, every insecurity and fear she had about not being good enough, amplified by strangers who knew nothing about her or their situation. Her phone rang. Tessa. "Girl, are you okay?" Her friend's voice was tight with concern. "These articles are everywhere." "I'm fine." Erica pulled away from Spencer to take the call privately. "Just wasn't expecting it to blow up like this." "Erica, some of these comments are racist as hell. They're not just questioning your professional qualifications, they're making it about you being a black woman with a white billionaire. Like you couldn't possibly have anything to offer except—" Tessa's voice cracked with anger. "You need to be prepared for this to get uglier." After hanging up, Erica sat heavily on Spencer's couch, the weight of everything suddenly crushing. She'd known dating him would bring scrutiny. She hadn't fully considered how her race would factor into that scrutiny, how people would use both her professional failure and her blackness as weapons to delegitimize their relationship. Spencer joined her, seeming to sense her thoughts. "I'm sorry. I should have anticipated this, should have prepared you better." "How do you prepare for people questioning whether you're good enough to exist in your boyfriend's world?" Erica's voice came out more bitter than she'd intended. "Spencer, these people are saying I'm using you, that you're having some kind of crisis and I'm taking advantage, that the only reason you date someone like me is if you're trying to prove something or you have a fetish for—" She couldn't finish the sentence. "For brilliant, accomplished women who challenge me intellectually?" Spencer's voice was steel. "Because that's the only type I have. Erica, I don't care what color your skin is any more than I care about your bank balance or your professional setbacks. I care about your mind, your heart, your integrity. Anyone who can't see your worth isn't someone whose opinion matters." Easy to say when you're not the one being called a gold digger and worse. But even as she said it, Erica knew she was being unfair. Spencer had dealt with public scrutiny too, had weathered his wife's deathbed, confession becoming tabloid fodder, had learned to ignore the whispers about Chloe's paternity. "You're right," Spencer said quietly. "I have privilege you don't. My mistakes get explained away while yours get weaponized. That's not fair, and I'm sorry you have to deal with it. But Erica, please don't let other people's bigotry and cruelty make you doubt what we have." Erica looked at his face, seeing genuine distress at her pain, and felt her anger softening. "I'm not doubting us, I'm just overwhelmed. This happened so fast. 3 weeks ago we were strangers. Now we're in a relationship that's apparently newsworthy enough for tabloid coverage." "Do you regret it?" The vulnerability in Spencer's voice made her chest ache. "No." The answer came without hesitation. "No, I don't regret it. I just need to adjust to being visible again in ways I haven't been since the building collapse." They spent the rest of the evening strategizing how to handle the media attention. Spencer would have his PR team prepare a statement. They'd be more careful about where they went in public until the initial frenzy died down. And most importantly, they'd keep living their lives and doing their work, refusing to let speculation dictate their choices. When Erica finally went home that night, exhausted and emotionally drained, she found flowers waiting at her apartment door. Not the expensive arrangements that Spencer could easily afford, but wildflowers again, with a note in his handwriting. "They can question everything else, but they can't question how I feel about you. That's real, and it's ours, and no amount of outside noise can change it. Sleep well, beautiful. Tomorrow we keep building something that matters." Erica brought the flowers inside, arranged them carefully in her vase, and allowed herself to believe that maybe Spencer was right. Maybe love was worth fighting for, even when the world made it difficult. Maybe second chances came with complications, but that didn't make them less valuable. Her phone buzzed with a final text from Spencer. "Thank you for not running, for choosing us even when it's hard. You're braver than you know," she typed back. "We're brave together. That's what makes it possible." As she fell asleep, Erica thought about tomorrow's project meeting, about Chloe's next portfolio session, about building a life that integrated professional success with personal happiness. It wouldn't be easy. The scrutiny would continue, Olivia would eventually make her dramatic entrance, and Vanessa clearly hadn't finished making trouble. But for the first time in years, Erica felt like she was building toward something instead of just surviving. And that was worth whatever challenges came next. The media frenzy died down after a few days, replaced by newer scandals and more interesting targets. But the damage lingered in subtle ways. Awkward silences when Erica entered rooms, carefully neutral expressions from Spencer's business associates, the sense that she was being constantly evaluated and found wanting. Friday afternoon, Spencer appeared at her temporary office with an unexpected proposal. "Pack a bag for the weekend," he said without preamble. "We're going away." Erica looked up from the blueprints she'd been reviewing. "Spencer, I have deadline on these revisions, which can wait until Monday. You've been working 80-hour weeks since the project started, and the media circus this week has only added to your stress." He moved around her desk, pulling her to her feet with gentle insistence. "You need a break. We need a break. Somewhere private where we can just be ourselves without cameras or judgment or professional obligations." "Where are we going?" "My family's cabin in the mountains, 2 hours from here, completely secluded, no neighbors for miles." Spencer's smile was warm and slightly mischievous. "I've already cleared it with Chloe. She's spending the weekend with Tessa, who's apparently decided you need someone to look out for your best interests." "Tessa's meeting Chloe?" Erica couldn't hide her surprise. "They've been texting all week, apparently. Chloe wanted to get to know the person you trust most, and Tessa wanted to make sure my daughter isn't going to make your life difficult." Spencer laughed. "They've formed some kind of alliance. I'm not sure if I should be worried or relieved." 2 hours later, they pulled up to a cabin that was less rustic retreat and more architectural masterpiece. Floor-to-ceiling windows showcased mountain views, a stone fireplace dominated the main living space, and the interior managed to feel both luxurious and comfortable. "This is incredible," Erica breathed, taking in the craftsmanship. "Who designed it?" "My grandfather, actually. Before he became obsessed with maximizing profit, he loved creating beautiful spaces." Spencer set their bags down, moving to start a fire. This was his refuge, the one place where he could escape expectations and just build something for the joy of it. It shows. Every choice honors the landscape instead of dominating it. Erica ran her hand over the smooth stone of the fireplace. He had real talent. He did. Then he let greed corrupt it, turned beauty into commodity, and forgot why he started building in the first place. Spencer's voice carried old pain. "I'm trying not to make his mistakes. To remember that success means creating things that matter, not just accumulating wealth." They unpacked together, falling into comfortable domesticity. Spencer preparing dinner while Erica explored the cabin, both of them moving around each other with easy familiarity despite how new their relationship was. Over grilled steaks and wine, they talked about everything and nothing. Chloe's latest portfolio revisions, Spencer's ongoing battles with his board, Erica's siblings and their various dramas. "Tell me about your marriage," Erica said as they settled on the couch after dinner, fire crackling and wine warming her from the inside. Not just Lauren's confession, but before that. What was it like? Spencer was quiet for a long moment, staring into the flames. Comfortable, safe, completely hollow, though I didn't realize it at the time. "We had the kind of marriage that looked perfect from the outside. Beautiful wife, adorable daughter, successful careers, respected social position. But there was no real intimacy, no vulnerability. We performed happy couple for everyone else and barely spoke when we were alone." "That sounds lonely." It was. I convinced myself that was just what marriage was. Partnership and obligation and raising a child together. That passion and deep connection were myths from movies. He turned to face Erica fully. Then she got sick. Cancer, aggressive and fast. In those final weeks, I think she felt guilty enough to finally be honest. She told me she'd never loved me, that she'd married me specifically for my family's money and status, that she'd been having an affair with someone else when she got pregnant with Chloe, that our entire marriage was a transaction where I was the only one who didn't know the terms. "Come to bed with me," Spencer whispered against her lips. "Let me show you how much you mean to me, how completely you've changed everything." Erica's answer was to stand, taking his hand and letting him lead her to the master bedroom. The space was dominated by a massive bed facing windows that showcased the mountains beyond. Spencer lit candles scattered throughout the room, creating soft light that flickered across surfaces and cast them both in golden warmth. "You planned this," Erica said, touched by the thoughtfulness. "I hoped." Spencer turned to face her, suddenly looking vulnerable despite his confident exterior. "Erica, I need you to understand something. When we do this, when I make love to you, it's not casual for me. It's not just physical. I'm giving you everything. My heart, my trust, my absolute commitment. Can you handle that?" Instead of answering with words, Erica closed the distance between them, kissing him with all the passion and promise she felt but couldn't articulate. Spencer responded immediately, his arms wrapping around her waist and pulling her flush against his body. They kissed until breathing became difficult, until the world narrowed to just sensation and need and the overwhelming rightness of being in each other's arms. Spencer's hands found the hem of her sweater, and she lifted her arms to let him pull it over her head. Cool air hit her skin for just a moment before his warmth replaced it, his hands spanning her waist and making her feel both delicate and powerful. She tugged at his shirt, needing to feel his skin against hers, and Spencer obliged by stripping it off in one fluid motion that left them both standing in the candlelight with far fewer barriers between them. "You're so beautiful," Spencer breathed, his hands tracing the curve of her waist, the line of her spine, learning the geography of her body with focused attention. "I could spend the rest of my life just looking at you and never get tired of it." Erica's response was to reach for his belt, her hand steady despite the nerves fluttering in her stomach. This was happening. They were crossing a line from which there was no return, transforming their relationship from potential into reality. Spencer's hands covered hers, helping with the buckle, and then they were both working to remove the remaining barriers between them. Jeans and underwear pooling on the floor, skin revealed inch by inch until they stood before each other, completely bare in every sense. Spencer lifted her into his arms, that unexpectedly romantic gesture that made Erica gasp and cling to his shoulders, and carried her to the bed. He laid her down with reverent care, following her onto the mattress and covering her body with his. The sensation of skin against skin, with nothing between them, was overwhelming. Erica arched into him, needing more contact, more pressure, more of everything he was offering. They kissed and touched with escalating intensity, mapping each other's bodies with hands and lips and whispered confessions. Spencer learned that she was sensitive along her ribs, that kissing the hollow of her throat made her make sounds she'd never heard herself make before, that she became impatient when he teased too long. Erica discovered that Spencer's control was absolute until she touched him in specific ways, that he loved when she took initiative, that beneath his polished exterior was a man capable of raw passion when given permission to show it. "Are you sure?" Spencer asked when they were both trembling with need, his body poised above hers, his eyes searching her face for any hesitation. "I've never been more sure of anything," Erica replied, pulling him down to her. Their joining was slow and deliberate, Spencer watching her face the entire time with an intensity that made her feel completely seen. Time seemed to pause as they discovered a language only hearts could speak, as physical intimacy opened doors to emotional connection they'd both been too afraid to walk through before. His touch was reverent, as though she were something precious he'd been, searching for his whole life. She felt walls she'd built crumbling, replaced by something stronger, trust, forged in vulnerability and choice rather than circumstance. In the candlelight, they found each other completely, two wounded souls finally allowing themselves to heal. Every whispered confession became a promise, every tender caress wrote poetry on willing skin. When they finally moved together, it wasn't just bodies joining but spirits recognizing home. Afterward, they lay tangled together, sweat cooling on their skin, hearts gradually slowing from their frantic pace. Spencer pulled a blanket over them both, tucking Erica against his side with possessive comfort. "I love you," he said simply, no hesitation or qualification. "I know it's fast and complicated and probably terrifying, but I love you, Erica Lance, completely and without reservation." Tears leaked from the corners of Erica's eyes, but they were happy tears, overwhelmed tears, the kind that came from feeling something you'd stopped believing was possible. "I love you too. So much it scares me, but I love you." They fell asleep wrapped around each other, the mountain silence broken only by the crackling fire and the sound of their synchronized breathing. For the first time in years, Erica slept without nightmares, without guilt pressing on her chest, without the weight of everything she'd lost, crushing her ability to hope for the future. The drive back to Charleston was quiet but comfortable, both of them lost in thought about what awaited them. Spencer's phone had been off all weekend, and when he finally turned it on near the city limits, it immediately exploded with notifications. "That can't be good," Erica muttered as message after message poured in. Spencer's face went pale as he scrolled through them. "Pull over." "What? Spencer, what's wrong?" "Just pull over. Now." Erica guided the car to the shoulder, her heart pounding. Spencer was reading something on his phone, his expression shifting from shock to fury to something approaching devastation. "Spencer, you're scaring me. What happened?" He turned the phone to show her a news article, and Erica's world tilted. The headline screamed, "Carrigan Industries under investigation, embezzlement scheme linked to disgraced architect." The article detailed allegations that Erica had been diverting funds from the Riverside project into personal accounts, using her position as lead architect to steal nearly $200,000 over the past months. Anonymous sources, clearly Vanessa, though the article wouldn't name her, suggested that Spencer's romantic involvement had blinded him to obvious red flags, that his judgment was compromised by his relationship with someone who'd already been investigated for professional misconduct once before. "This is insane," Erica breathed, reading through the article with growing horror. "I haven't touched those accounts. Spencer, you have to believe me." "I do believe you." Spencer's voice was tight with barely controlled rage. "But Vanessa clearly doesn't care about the truth. She's manufacturing evidence to destroy you and hurt me in the process." Erica's phone started ringing. Tessa, Gerald, Sandra, numbers she didn't recognize that were probably reporters. She silenced it, but the damage was done. Her carefully rebuilt reputation was being destroyed again, this time with the added complication of her relationship with Spencer making it look even worse. "We need to get back to the city," Spencer said grimly. "I'm calling an emergency board meeting. We're going to get ahead of this before Vanessa poisons everyone against us." As they drove the remaining miles to Charleston, Erica felt everything they'd built over the weekend threatening to crumble. The love was real. The commitment was genuine. But could it survive another round of public accusations and professional devastation? She'd lost everything once before and barely survived it. Could she handle losing it all again, this time with Spencer caught in the blast radius? "I should resign from the project," she said quietly, "before this damages your company's reputation beyond repair." "Absolutely not." Spencer's hand found hers across the console, grip fierce. "You're not running, and I'm not letting you sacrifice yourself to protect me. We find out who's really stealing, because someone is. They've just framed you for it, and we clear your name. Together." "Spencer, if the board demands my resignation, the board works for me, not the other way around. And anyone who thinks I'd throw you to the wolves to save face doesn't know me at all." His jaw was set with determination. "Erica, I told you this weekend that I'm all in. That means I fight for you, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. So no more talk about resigning or walking away. We face this together, and we win." Erica wanted to believe him, but the fear was overwhelming. History was repeating itself, accusations of professional misconduct, evidence that made her look guilty, people assuming the worst because it fit their preconceived narratives. The only difference was that this time, she had Spencer beside her. The question was whether his faith in her would be enough to withstand what was coming. As they entered Charleston city limits, Erica's phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Against her better judgment, she opened it. "Your time playing architect is over. Walk away now with some dignity, or watch Spencer lose everything defending a liar. You have 48 hours to decide." A friend. She showed Spencer the message, and his expression turned murderous. "Vanessa," he spat, "this is her play. Manufacture a crisis, offer you an out that makes me look foolish for believing you, then swoop in to help me recover from my poor judgment. Classic manipulation." "It might work," Erica said quietly. "Spencer, what if people believe her? What if the evidence she's manufactured is good enough that even you start to doubt? Stop. Spencer pulled the car over again, this time in a parking lot near the harbor. He turned to face her fully, his hands framing her face with fierce gentleness. Listen to me very carefully. I know you. I've watched you work, seen your integrity in every decision, witnessed you bankrupting yourself to help families who have nothing to do with your current success. You're not capable of stealing, not even if you were desperate, and I will never, ever doubt that. No matter what evidence Vanessa manufactures, no matter how many people question my judgment, I know the truth about who you are. Tears were streaming down Erica's face now. What if knowing the truth isn't enough? What if loving me costs you everything? Then I'll lose everything, Spencer said simply, and I'll still choose you. Because, Erica, you're worth more than any empire. You're worth more than reputation or social standing or my mother's approval. You're the first real thing I've felt in years, and I'm not giving that up because it's difficult. They sat in the car holding each other, both crying now, both terrified, but refusing to let fear make their decisions. Whatever came next would test them in ways the building collapse and Lauren's betrayal never had. But they would face it together, and maybe that would be enough. Monday morning arrived with the weight of impending disaster. Erica stood outside Spencer's office building, staring up at the gleaming glass tower and trying to gather the courage to walk inside. She'd barely slept, her mind churning through worst-case scenarios and the mounting evidence Vanessa had somehow manufactured to make her look guilty. Spencer's hand settled on her lower back, warm and steady. Ready? No, but let's do this anyway. The elevator ride to the executive floor felt like ascending to her own execution. When the doors opened, Erica saw the entire senior team gathered in the conference room, their expressions ranging from concern to outright hostility. Gerald refused to meet her eyes. Sandra looked torn between loyalty and doubt. And at the head of the table sat a man Erica didn't recognize, late 50s, expensive suit, the kind of face that had spent decades judging people and finding them wanting. Erica, this is Thomas Price. He's the forensic accountant the board hired to investigate the financial irregularities. Spencer's voice was carefully neutral, giving nothing away. Thomas, this is Erica Lance, lead architect on the Riverside project. Thomas stood, extending a hand that Erica shook despite wanting to flee. His grip was firm, professional, and told her nothing about what he'd found in his investigation. Miss Lance, thank you for coming in. I know this must be difficult. His tone was surprisingly kind, which somehow made everything worse. I've been reviewing the financial records for the Riverside project, and I'm afraid there are some significant discrepancies that require explanation. He pulled up a presentation on the conference room screen. Bank statements, wire transfers, a complex web of financial transactions that Erica didn't recognize, but that clearly showed money being diverted from project accounts into what the presentation labeled as unknown recipients. Nearly $200,000 has been transferred out of project accounts over the past 3 months, Thomas continued. The transfers were authorized using credentials that trace back to your login, Miss Lance. Can you explain these transactions? Erica's mouth went dry. The evidence was damning, showing exactly what Vanessa had promised, a paper trail that made her look guilty beyond doubt. But as she studied the screen more carefully, something caught her attention. Those dates, she said slowly. October 8th, October 22nd, November 5th. I wasn't even in the office on those days. I was at the Riverside site with community members, and there are dozens of witnesses who can confirm that. Thomas made a note. That's helpful. However, the transactions were still authorized using your credentials. Do you share your login information with anyone? No, I'm the only one who has access to those accounts. Erica turned to Spencer, desperation creeping into her voice. Someone must have stolen my credentials. This is exactly what happened at my old firm. Someone with access to the systems framed me for their mistakes. A rather convenient pattern, a voice said from the doorway. Erica turned to see an elegantly dressed older woman entering the conference room, her steel-gray hair perfectly coiffed, her expression radiating disapproval. First one scandal, now another. Perhaps the common denominator is you, Miss Lance. Mother, Spencer's voice carried a warning. This is a closed meeting. Not when my family's reputation is at stake. Olivia Carrigan moved into the room with the confidence of someone who'd never been told no in her entire life. Mr. Price, I've reviewed your preliminary findings. The evidence seems quite clear that Miss Lance has been embezzling from my son's company. I trust the board will take appropriate action. Mrs. Carrigan, with respect, the investigation is ongoing, Thomas replied diplomatically. I'm not prepared to draw conclusions until I've examined all the evidence. What more evidence do you need? Olivia's voice dripped with disdain as she looked at Erica. She already has a history of professional misconduct. She was investigated for the building collapse that killed 3 people. And now, conveniently, funds are missing from the project she's leading. How many chances does one person get before we acknowledge the obvious? Erica felt her face burning with shame and fury. I was cleared in that investigation. The building collapsed because a contractor used substandard materials and my senior partners covered it up. I reported the problems 3 times, and I've spent 2 years making amends to the victims' families. How noble, Olivia said coldly. Using my son's money to play savior while you destroy his company from within. That's enough, Spencer's voice cut through the room like a blade. Mother, you weren't invited to this meeting, and your opinions are not welcome. Either leave voluntarily or I'll have security escort you out. Olivia's expression hardened. Spencer, I'm trying to protect you from making another catastrophic mistake. After what Lauren did to you, I thought you'd learn to be more careful about who you trust. But apparently you're still vulnerable to women who see opportunity in your loneliness. Erica is nothing like Lauren. Spencer moved to stand beside Erica, his presence a shield against his mother's venom. She's ethical, hard-working, and innocent of these charges, and I won't tolerate anyone, including you, treating her like a criminal before the investigation is complete. Then you're a fool, Olivia said bluntly. And when this woman has taken everything you've built and destroyed it completely, don't expect me to help you pick up the pieces. She swept out of the conference room, leaving tension thick in her wake. Spencer's hand found Erica's under the table, squeezing reassuringly, but the damage was done. Everyone had heard Olivia's accusations, had seen the evidence that made Erica look guilty, had witnessed Spencer defending her despite overwhelming reasons to doubt. Thomas cleared his throat, redirecting attention back to his presentation. Miss Lance, let's focus on the facts. You claim you weren't in the office on these dates. Can you provide documentation of your whereabouts? I keep detailed calendars. Erica pulled out her phone with shaking hands. October 8th, I was at the Riverside site from 9 a.m. until 6 p.m., meeting with community members about the playground design. I have photos time-stamped throughout the day, and at least 15 people can confirm I was there. And the other dates? Erica checked her calendar for each transaction date, finding alibis for most of them. But as she scrolled through her records, a sinking feeling settled in her stomach. 3 of the transfers had occurred during times when she'd been working alone in her temporary office, times when no one could definitively prove she hadn't authorized the transactions herself. Thomas noticed her hesitation. Miss Lance? 3 of the dates. I was in the office, but working alone. I can't prove I didn't make those transfers myself. The admission felt like defeat. But you didn't make them, Spencer interjected. Someone used your credentials while you were in the office. Thomas, can you trace the IP addresses of the computers used for these transactions? Already in progress. But Miss Lance, I need to ask, where does the money go? The transfers go to accounts registered to 3 different families. Do you have relationships with any of these people? Erica's blood turned to ice as Thomas displayed the account names: Chen Family Trust, Washington Education Fund, Rodriguez Memorial Scholarship, the 3 families from the building collapse, the families she'd been secretly supporting for 2 years. Oh, God, she breathed. Vanessa found out about my payments. Thomas frowned. What payments? With shaking hands, Erica pulled up her own bank records, showing the monthly transfers she'd been making from her consulting fees to these same 3 families. Smaller amounts sent from her personal account, completely separate from the project funds. After the building collapse, I started sending money to the victims' families, Erica explained, her voice barely above a whisper. Anonymous payments to help with expenses, college tuition, keeping their homes. I've been doing it for 2 years, using almost all my income beyond basic survival needs. Gerald leaned forward, studying her bank records. You've been sending them thousands every month. How do you even live on what's left? I don't live well, but they needed it more than I needed comfort. Erica looked at Spencer, seeing the pieces clicking into place in his mind. Someone found out about my payments and used that information to frame me. They're making it look like I'm stealing from the project to fund these families, when actually I've been using my own money all along. Who knew about the payments? Thomas asked. No one. I kept them anonymous precisely because I didn't want anyone to know. Then Erica remembered. Wait. Chloe borrowed my laptop a few weeks ago to work on her portfolio. She said she saw my bank statements accidentally. Spencer's face went pale. Chloe saw your statements, and then you told me about the payments that weekend at the cabin. Who else did Chloe tell? Before anyone could answer, the conference room door burst open. Chloe stood there, breathless and furious, with Tessa right behind her. Dad, stop! Chloe's voice cracked with emotion. You don't understand what she's really been doing with that money. Everyone froze. Spencer stood slowly. Chloe, you're supposed to be at school. What are you doing here? I saw the news articles. Everyone at school is talking about how Erica stole money from your company, but it's not true. Tears streamed down Chloe's face as she moved into the room. I saw her bank statements. She's been paying those families from her own consulting fees. Every month she sends them almost everything she earns. She lives on practically nothing so they can have college tuition and mortgage payments and scholarships. Chloe, how do you know this? Spencer's voice was gentle but urgent. Because I accidentally saw her bank account when I borrowed her laptop, and then Chloe's face crumpled with guilt. I told Madison at school. I thought it was beautiful what Erica was doing, and Madison seemed interested when I mentioned it. But Dad, I think Madison told her sister, and her sister told someone else, and Madison. Cooper, Erica said, everything clicking into place. Vanessa Cooper's niece, the girl who stole your museum design project. Spencer's expression turned murderous. Vanessa found out about the payments through Madison. She used that information to manufacture evidence that makes it look like you're stealing from my company to fund the families, when you've actually been supporting them privately all along. Thomas was rapidly making notes, his expression shifting from skepticism to interest. This changes things considerably. If we can prove Miss Lance has been making these payments from her own accounts for 2 years, and that someone with knowledge of those payments then created fake transfers from project accounts to the same families, that establishes a clear pattern of someone framing her. Can you trace where the stolen money actually went? Spencer demanded. I'm already on it. The transfers went into accounts registered to the 3 families. But if they didn't actually receive the money, Thomas was typing rapidly on his laptop. There are secondary transfers out of those accounts almost immediately. The money doesn't stay with the families at all. It's being rerouted through shell companies. Shell companies that probably trace back to Vanessa, Spencer said grimly. She's not just framing Erica, she's stealing from my company and using Erica as the scapegoat. Chloe collapsed into a chair, sobbing. This is my fault. If I hadn't told Madison, Vanessa wouldn't have known about the families. I gave her the ammunition to destroy Erica. Erica moved immediately to Chloe's side, wrapping the girl in her arms despite her own world crumbling around her. This isn't your fault, sweetheart. You couldn't have known Madison would betray your confidence or that Vanessa would use that information maliciously. The only person at fault here is Vanessa herself. But everyone thinks you're a thief because of me, Chloe cried into Erica's shoulder. Everyone thought I was a thief anyway, Erica said, trying for lightness despite the tears streaming down her own face. Vanessa just gave them a convenient narrative. We'll prove the truth, and then they'll have to eat their words. Spencer was already on his phone, his voice cold and commanding as he issued orders. I want Vanessa Cooper brought in for questioning immediately. Get our legal team involved. Contact the FBI if necessary. And someone find out which board member gave my mother access to this meeting, because heads are going to roll. Over the next several hours, the investigation exploded into action. Thomas traced the shell companies back to a web of accounts, many of which had suspicious links to Vanessa's business interests. The FBI got involved when it became clear the embezzlement scheme crossed state lines. And most damningly, they found evidence that Vanessa's assistant had been accessing Erica's credentials remotely, using sophisticated hacking tools to authorize transfers while Erica was nowhere near a computer. By late afternoon, Vanessa was in custody, her carefully constructed facade crumbling as evidence mounted against her. Her assistant, faced with federal charges, confessed to everything. How Vanessa had hired her specifically to frame Erica, how they'd created fake transaction records, how the plan was to force Spencer to fire Erica and then position Vanessa as his savior and eventual romantic interest. Jealousy and greed, Thomas explained as he presented his final findings to Spencer and Erica. She wanted you back, wanted your money, and saw Miss Lance as the obstacle to both. So she manufactured a crisis that would destroy your girlfriend while making you look foolish for trusting her. Then she'd swoop in, help you recover, and position herself as the logical alternative. Except she underestimated Erica completely, Spencer said, his arm around Erica's shoulders as they reviewed the evidence. Underestimated her integrity, her intelligence, and the fact that I know exactly who she is and would never doubt her. Erica leaned into his warmth, exhausted but relieved. For a few hours there, I thought history was repeating itself, that I'd lose everything again, and this time I'd drag you down with me. Never, Spencer said fiercely. Erica, I told you I'm all in. That means I fight for you, even when the evidence looks bad, especially when the evidence looks bad. As evening approached, Spencer called another emergency board meeting, this one to present Thomas's complete findings and clear Erica's name officially. The board members filed in looking sheepish, clearly realizing they'd been too quick to judge based on appearances rather than waiting for facts. Gentlemen, Spencer began, his voice carrying the kind of authority that had built empires. I want to address the events of the past 72 hours directly. Erica Lance, our lead architect, was accused of embezzling nearly $200,000 from the Riverside project. The evidence appeared damning. Many of you, and many others in our community, were quick to assume her guilt based on her past professional difficulties. He paused, letting the room sit with their shame. The forensic investigation has revealed that Miss Lance is not only innocent of these charges, but that she has been the victim of an elaborate fraud scheme orchestrated by Vanessa Cooper. Moreover, the investigation uncovered something that speaks to Miss Lance's character in ways that should make us all reconsider how quickly we judge people. Spencer pulled up Erica's bank records on the screen, and she fought the urge to hide from the exposure of her private financial decisions. For 2 years, Miss Lance has been sending anonymous payments to the families of the 3 people who died in the building collapse, not because she was legally obligated to, not because she was trying to buy forgiveness, but because she felt a moral responsibility to help them survive a tragedy she couldn't prevent. She's been living on bare subsistence income while giving away thousands of dollars every month to families who will never know her name. The board members were silent, many looking uncomfortable with this revelation of unexpected nobility. Vanessa Cooper discovered these payments and weaponized that information against Miss Lance, framing her for embezzlement by making it appear she was stealing from our company to fund these families. But the truth is, Miss Lance has been supporting them entirely from her own resources, at great personal cost for years. That's who you all rushed to condemn. That's who you assumed was a thief. I hope the irony isn't lost on any of you. Gerald spoke up, his voice rough with emotion. Erica, I owe you an apology. I doubted you, and that was wrong. You've shown more integrity in the past 2 years than most of us show in a lifetime. Sandra nodded agreement. I'm sorry, too. We should have waited for the investigation instead of assuming the worst. One by one, board members apologized, and Erica accepted their words with as much grace as she could muster. But it was hard not to feel bitter about how quickly they'd turned on her, how easily they'd believed the worst, because it fit their preconceived narratives about who she was. After the meeting ended, Erica found herself alone in Spencer's office, staring out at the Charleston skyline and trying to process everything that had happened. The door opened, and Spencer entered with 2 glasses of wine. Thought you could use this, he said, handing her a glass. I could use something stronger, but this is a start. Erica took a long sip, letting the alcohol warm her from the inside. Spencer, what Vanessa did, it's worse than just trying to frame me. She manipulated Chloe's innocent confidence, used a teenage girl's trust to gather ammunition. That's evil. I know. Spencer's voice was tight with controlled fury. I've already contacted my lawyer about additional charges related to her exploitation of my daughter. Vanessa will pay for what she's done, to you and to Chloe." "How is she?" "Chloe, I mean." "Devastated and feeling guilty, despite both of us telling her this isn't her fault." Spencer moved behind Erica, his arms wrapping around her waist. Tessa took her home. They're baking cookies and having what Tessa calls a trauma processing session through butter and sugar. Erica laughed despite everything. "It sounds like Tessa. She always said cookies fix everything." "Do they fix this?" Spencer turned her in his arms, his expression serious. "Erica, I'm so sorry you had to go through that. The accusations, the investigation, my mother's cruelty, the board's doubt. You shouldn't have had to defend yourself against charges that were completely fabricated." "I survived it. We survived it." Erica touched his face gently. "Spencer, for a few terrible hours today, I thought I'd lose everything again. But even in the worst moments, you never doubted me. You fought for me when the evidence made me look guilty. That's the first time anyone has done that. And Her voice broke. "I don't have words for what that means to me." Spencer's answer was to kiss her, tender and fierce and full of promise. When they broke apart, his forehead rested against hers. "I love you," he said simply. "That means I choose to believe in you, even when others don't. It means I fight for you, even when it's hard. It means I stand beside you through every storm because that's what partnership is." "I love you too." Erica felt tears streaming down her face, but they were good tears this time. Tears of relief and overwhelming gratitude and the beginning of believing that maybe she deserved this kind of fierce, unwavering support. Her phone buzzed with a text from Tessa. "Chloe wants to know if you're okay and if you hate her. Also, we made chocolate chip snickerdoodle and depression brownies. Come home." "Come home," Erica repeated softly. "When did your house become home?" "Probably the moment you walked into it," Spencer replied. "Let's go. Our daughter needs reassurance, and apparently there are depression brownies that require our attention." "Our daughter?" Erica tested the words, liking how they felt. "Is that what we're doing? Building a family?" "If you're willing." Spencer's vulnerability showed in his expression. "Erica, I know this is fast and complicated and probably terrifying, but I want you in my life permanently. I want to marry you, make you Chloe's legal stepmother, build a future together. I want everything for as long as you'll have me." "Forever," Erica said, certain despite how fast everything was moving. "I want forever with you." They drove to Spencer's house. To home, Erica corrected herself, and found Chloe and Tessa in the kitchen, surrounded by enough cookies to feed a small army. Chloe's eyes were red from crying, but she launched herself at Erica the moment they walked in. "I'm so sorry," Chloe sobbed into Erica's shoulder. "I ruined everything." "You didn't ruin anything," Erica said firmly, holding the girl close. "Vanessa is a manipulative person who used you to hurt me and your father, but she failed, Chloe. I'm cleared, your dad's company is protected, and Vanessa's going to prison. We won." "Because Dad believed you." Chloe pulled back, wiping her eyes. "Even when the evidence looked really bad, he never doubted you were innocent." "Because I know who she is," Spencer said, joining their embrace and creating a three-person hug that felt like family. "And nothing anyone says can change what I know in my heart about the woman I love." Tessa cleared her throat. "Okay, this is beautiful, and I'm very happy for all of you. But can we please eat some cookies before I stress eat the entire batch myself? Also, Erica, you and I need to talk about appropriate boundaries with teenage girls and laptop sharing." They spent the evening eating cookies, processing trauma, through sugar and conversation, and slowly returning to normal. Chloe showed them updates to her portfolio, which was shaping into something genuinely impressive now that she was designing from her heart instead of for approval. Tessa extracted promises from Spencer that he'd protect Erica from future schemes by people who underestimated her worth. And gradually, the terror of the day faded into exhausted relief that they'd survived it together. Late that night, after Tessa went home and Chloe went to bed, Erica and Spencer sat on his back porch under the stars, wrapped in blankets against the autumn chill. "I keep thinking about what your mother said," Erica admitted, "about me being another Lauren, using you for what you can provide. Spencer, what if people always see me that way? What if they never accept that I love you for who you are, not what you have?" Then they're wrong, and their opinion doesn't matter. Spencer pulled her closer. Erica, you've proven your character over and over. You reported safety violations that cost you your career. You've spent 2 years supporting families who don't know your name. You stood beside me when you could have walked away and protected yourself from scandal. Anyone who can't see your integrity isn't worth convincing. Not even your mother? Spencer sighed. My mother has spent her entire life valuing appearance over substance, status over character. She's not going to change easily, but she'll adjust or she'll find herself excluded from our lives. I won't let her poison what we have. They sat in comfortable silence for a while, watching stars appear in the darkening sky. Then Erica asked the question that had been bothering her since the investigation concluded. The families, Sarah Chen, Rebecca Washington's parents, James Rodriguez's family. They're going to find out about my payments now that they're part of the investigation record. I wanted to keep them anonymous. I didn't do it for recognition. I know, but Erica, maybe it's time they knew. Maybe they deserve to know that someone cared enough to help them, that their loved ones mattered to someone beyond just statistics in a tragedy. Spencer paused. Would it be so terrible if they wanted to thank you? Erica wasn't sure. She'd kept the payments anonymous, partly from humility, but partly from fear. Fear that if the families knew it was her, they'd reject the help out of anger that she'd survived when their loved ones hadn't. But maybe Spencer was right. Maybe they deserved to know that someone remembered, someone cared, someone had spent 2 years trying to make amends for a tragedy she couldn't prevent. Okay, she said finally. We'll contact them through the lawyers. Let them know it was me and that I'll continue supporting them if they're comfortable with that. But if they want me to stop, I will. It's their choice. That's fair. Spencer kissed her temple. You're an incredible person, Erica Lance. I hope you're starting to believe that. I'm getting there, she admitted. Slowly but surely I'm starting to believe that maybe I deserve this happiness after all. Chapter 3. The following morning brought unexpected visitors. Erica was working in Spencer's home office when the doorbell rang, and she heard voices in the foyer, one familiar, the others not. She emerged to find Frank Morrison standing in the entryway with 3 people she recognized from photographs but had never met in person: Sarah Chen, Marcus Washington, Rebecca's father, and Elena Rodriguez, James's mother. Erica's breath caught. These were the families she'd been supporting anonymously for 2 years, the people whose grief she carried like stones in her chest. And now they were standing in Spencer's home, their expressions unreadable. Miss Lance, Frank said gently, these folks asked me to arrange a meeting after the investigation revealed your involvement. I hope this is all right? Of course. Erica's voice came out steadier than she felt. Please, come in. Can I get you coffee or tea? They settled in the living room, an awkward silence stretching until Sarah Chen spoke first. She was in her early 40s, with Michael's eyes and the kind of exhaustion that came from raising 3 children alone while working 2 jobs. Miss Lance, the lawyers told us you've been sending money for 2 years. Anonymous payments that kept us in our house, paid for tutoring, covered expenses we couldn't manage alone. Sarah's voice trembled. Why? Why would you do that when you didn't have to? Erica chose her words carefully, knowing this conversation could heal or hurt depending on what she said. Because 3 people died in a building I worked on. I reported safety concerns 3 times, and I was overruled by people who valued profit over human lives. When the building collapsed, I was cleared legally, but not morally. Your husband, your daughter, your son, they died because the system I worked within failed them. I couldn't bring them back, but I could try to make sure their families didn't lose everything else too. The investigation cleared you, Marcus Washington said. He was a large man with silver hair and Rebecca's fierce intelligence in his eyes. The contractor used substandard materials. The senior partners covered it up. You tried to stop it. I didn't try hard enough. Erica's voice broke. I should have refused to work on the project, should have gone public with my concerns, should have done something besides filing reports that my bosses ignored. You were 29 years old working for people who had all the power, Elena Rodriguez said softly. She was tiny, with James's warm smile and hands that showed decades of hard labor. What exactly were you supposed to do? Sacrifice your career to maybe possibly save lives if anyone listened to a young architect with no influence? Yes, Erica said simply. That's exactly what I should have done. Sarah stood abruptly, moving to sit beside Erica on the couch. To Erica's shock, she took her hands, holding them gently. For 2 years, I've wondered who was helping us. The mortgage payments always came exactly when we needed them. The tuition deposits for the kids' private school arrived just before deadlines. The college fund for my youngest grew even though we couldn't contribute. I thought maybe it was Michael's life insurance finally coming through, or some charity program I didn't remember applying to. She paused, tears streaming down her face. Finding out it was you, the architect who tried to save my husband and couldn't, it broke my heart all over again. Not because you were helping us, but because you've been punishing yourself for 2 years for something that wasn't your fault. 3 people died, Erica whispered. 3 people died because a contractor was greedy and corrupt, and because senior partners valued their relationships with that contractor more than human safety, Marcus said firmly. Rebecca told us about her work. She was so proud to be on that project, to be part of creating affordable housing that would serve families like ours. She knew the risks. Construction is never perfectly safe. What she didn't know was that people were actively making it more dangerous to save money. Elena pulled out a worn photograph showing a young man in a college sweatshirt with his whole life ahead of him. James was the first in our family to go to college. We worked ourselves to exhaustion to get him there. When he died, we thought everything he'd worked for died with him. But the scholarship fund someone established in his name has helped 5 other students go to college, 5 families who won't lose everything the way we did. She looked directly at Erica, her eyes fierce and kind simultaneously. You've been carrying guilt that isn't yours to carry. You've been bankrupting yourself to help us while living on nothing. Miss Lance, we didn't come here for your money. We came to tell you that you need to forgive yourself, Michael and Rebecca and James. They wouldn't want you destroying your life trying to make amends for their deaths. How can I forgive myself when they're gone? Erica was fully crying now, years of suppressed grief pouring out. How do I move forward knowing that if I'd fought harder, been louder, refused to back down? Then you'd have been fired and they'd have hired someone else who wouldn't have reported anything at all, Sarah interrupted gently. Erica, can I call you Erica? You can't save everyone. You can only do your best with the power you have, and you did that. You reported the problems. You created a paper trail that eventually brought down the people responsible. You've spent 2 years helping our families survive. That's not nothing. That's everything. Spencer appeared in the doorway, having given them privacy, but clearly monitoring the situation. I think what these folks are trying to say is that you've done enough, more than enough, and they're releasing you from the obligation you've placed on yourself. We don't want you to stop helping us, Marcus clarified quickly. The support has been life-changing, but we want you to help us because you choose to, not because you're punishing yourself. And we want you to live your own life too. Build your career again. Be happy. That's what our loved ones would want. The conversation continued for another hour, painful and healing in equal measure. The families shared memories of Michael, Rebecca, and James, not as abstract victims, but as real people with dreams and quirks and lives that had mattered. Erica listened, laughed, cried, and gradually began to release some of the crushing guilt she'd been carrying. Before they left, Sarah hugged Erica tightly. Thank you for remembering them. Thank you for caring enough to help us. But please, please stop punishing yourself. You deserve happiness too. After they left, Erica collapsed onto the couch, emotionally wrung out but feeling lighter than she had in years. Spencer sat beside her, pulling her into his arms. That was brave, he said quietly. Facing them, hearing their forgiveness, accepting that you've done enough. I don't know if I've accepted it, Erica admitted, but I'm trying. For the first time in 2 years, I'm actually trying to believe I deserve to move forward. Good, because I have something that might help with that. Spencer pulled out his phone, showing her an email. This came in this morning. The State Architectural Board wants to meet with you about reinstating your license. Frank Morrison submitted a formal petition on your behalf, along with testimony from me, Gerald, Sandra, and about 15 community members from the Riverside Project. They're fast-tracking the review. Erica stared at the email, hope and fear warring in her chest. What if they say no? Then we appeal and keep fighting. But Erica, you've been vindicated twice now, once for the building collapse and once for Vanessa's fraud. Your work on the Riverside project is exemplary. You have powerful advocates and a track record of integrity. They're going to say yes. And if they do? If I get my license back? Spencer's smile was warm and full of pride. Then you rebuild your practice, take on projects that matter to you, and show the world what they lost when they destroyed your career the first time. And I'll be beside you every step of the way. The lawsuit proceeded rapidly, with so much public documentation of the firm's misconduct that they settled for an even larger amount within weeks, along with requirements for policy changes, ethics training, and public admission of their role in destroying Erica's career. But even as her professional vindication was complete, Erica knew there was one final obstacle to address: Olivia Carrigan's inevitable objections to their relationship. The dinner invitation came on a Tuesday, phrased as a request but carrying the weight of a royal summons. "Spencer, darling, please bring your friend to dinner this Friday. It's time we had a proper conversation about your future." Friday evening, Erica stood in front of her closet trying to decide what one wore to have dinner with a woman who'd already decided you weren't good enough for her son. She finally chose a simple black dress that was elegant without being flashy, professional without being cold. Spencer picked her up, looking gorgeous in dark slacks and a fitted shirt, his hair perfectly styled, but his eyes revealing his stress about the evening ahead. "Are you sure you want to do this?" he asked as they drove to his mother's mansion. "We could cancel, put it off indefinitely, or just never subject you to her judgment at all." "I'm sure. If we're building a life together, I need to at least try with your mother. Even if she never accepts me, I want to be able to say I made the effort." Erica squeezed his hand. "Besides, I've survived worse than disapproving mothers. I can handle Olivia Carrigan." The mansion was exactly what Erica expected. Old money wealth displayed with understated elegance, every detail perfect and impersonal. Olivia herself answered the door, dressed in pearls and prejudice, her smile not reaching her cold blue eyes. "Spencer, darling, and Miss Lance, how unexpected to see you still around." Olivia's voice dripped with false warmth. "Do come in." The dinner was excruciating from the first course. Olivia peppered Erica with questions designed to highlight their class differences, where she'd gone to school, State University on scholarship, not Harvard like Spencer. Where her family was from, inner-city Charleston, not the historic district. What her father did for a living. Drove a bus, as Olivia already knew from her inevitable investigation. "How fascinating," Olivia said after each answer, her tone making clear she found nothing fascinating about Erica's background. "And tell me, how did you manage to afford MIT for graduate school? I know those scholarships are quite competitive." "Full ride based on academic merit and portfolio quality," Erica replied evenly. "I graduated top of my class." "How industrious." Olivia's smile was sharp, though I suppose when one comes from limited circumstances, one has to be quite driven to overcome those obstacles. Spencer's jaw tightened dangerously. "Mother, I'd appreciate it if you'd stop interrogating Erica like she's on trial." "I'm simply getting to know the woman you're so determined to associate with, despite the obvious complications." Olivia turned her attention fully to Erica. "My dear, surely you must see that this relationship is untenable. You come from completely different worlds. Spencer has obligations to his family name, his social position, his business empire. How could someone from your background possibly understand or navigate that world?" "Mother," Spencer began, but Erica cut him off. "Mrs. Carrigan, you're right that Spencer and I come from different worlds. He was born with every advantage money and status could provide. I was born to parents who worked multiple jobs just to keep us fed and housed. But you know what Spencer and I have in common? We both understand what it means to have our judgment questioned and our character attacked by people who know nothing about who we really are." Erica leaned forward, meeting Olivia's gaze directly. "You see me as someone using your son for his money and status. That tells me more about how you view relationships than anything about my character. Because I loved Spencer before I knew he loved me back. I supported him through his daughter's crisis without knowing if we'd ever be together, And when I was accused of embezzlement, when every logical reason existed for him to doubt me, he stood by me anyway. That's partnership. That's love. And no amount of old money or social connections can teach you that if you don't already understand it. The silence around the table was deafening. Olivia's expression had cycled through shock, offense, and something that might have been grudging respect. "Well," Olivia said finally, "you certainly don't lack for spine. I'll give you that." "Erica has more integrity and strength than anyone I've ever met," Spencer said firmly. "And Mother, I love you, but I need you to understand something. I'm going to marry this woman. She's going to be Chloe's stepmother and part of our family. You can accept that and have a relationship with us, or you can continue being judgmental and find yourself excluded from our lives. Your choice." Olivia's face went pale. "Spencer, you can't be serious. This woman's career was destroyed by scandal. Her reputation was destroyed by corrupt people who used her as a scapegoat, and it's been completely restored by people with actual integrity coming forward with the truth." Frank Morrison gave a press conference last week detailing exactly how Erica was framed. Every major architectural publication has written about her vindication. The industry knows she was right and her former firm was wrong. Spencer's voice carried absolute certainty. "Mother, Erica is one of the most respected architects in Charleston right now. Firms are competing to hire her. Projects are requesting her specifically. She doesn't need my money or my status. She has her own." "Then why is she with you?" Olivia's question cut to the heart of her concerns. "Because I love him," Erica answered simply. "Not for what he can give me, but for who he is. Spencer is brilliant and passionate and fights for communities that everyone else ignores. He's a devoted father who loves his daughter unconditionally, despite DNA saying he doesn't have to. He's kind and generous and believes people can change and grow. Those are the things I love about him. The money and status are just inconvenient complications that come with the package." Olivia studied Erica's face for a long moment, seeming to search for deception and finding none. Finally, she sighed heavily. "I don't like this. I don't like any of this. You're not who I would have chosen for my son." Olivia paused. "But Spencer is right. After Lauren's betrayal, after watching him barely survive that devastation, I can see that you make him happy in ways she never did. And perhaps that matters more than my approval or your background." It wasn't acceptance, exactly, but it was acknowledgement, which was more than Erica had expected. "Thank you," Erica said quietly. "I know I'm not what you wanted for Spencer, but I promise I'll love him and Chloe with everything I have. That's all I can offer. See that you do." Olivia's voice was still cool, but some of the hostility had faded. "And Miss Lance? If you hurt my son or granddaughter, you'll discover that my disapproval is the least of your problems." "Understood." Erica met Olivia's gaze steadily. "But I won't hurt them. That's a promise." The rest of dinner was less openly hostile, though hardly warm. Olivia asked questions about the Riverside project that seemed genuinely curious, rather than designed to attack. She inquired about Chloe's portfolio with something approaching grandmother's interest, and when they left, she almost smiled at Erica. "Well, that was terrifying," Erica said once they were safely in Spencer's car. "You were magnificent." Spencer pulled her into a kiss that was fierce and proud. "The way you stood up to her, refused to be intimidated, made her see you as more than just your background. Erica, I've never loved you more than I do right now." "Your mother still doesn't like me." "No, but she respects you. For my mother, that's actually more important. She can learn to like you once she respects you." Spencer started the car, his hand finding hers. "One more obstacle survived. We're getting good at this." "What's next? Because at this rate, we're going to run out of challenges before we even get married." "About that." Spencer's voice took on a nervous quality that made Erica's heart skip. "I know we've talked about eventually getting married, about building a future together. But Erica, I don't want to wait. I don't want eventually. I want now." "Spencer, let me finish." He pulled the car over again, this time in a park overlooking Charleston Harbor, where the city lights reflected on the water like fallen stars. "I'm 40 years old. I wasted 15 years in a marriage with someone who never loved me. I've spent 3 years rebuilding my life and my daughter's trust. And then you walked into that community center site with your passion and your vision and your absolute refusal to design buildings that hurt people. And everything changed. He turned to face her fully, pulling a small velvet box from his jacket pocket. I was planning to wait, planning to do this at some big public event where it could be romantic and dramatic and all the things proposals are supposed to be. But Erica, I don't want to wait anymore. I want to start our life together now, not eventually. Spencer opened the box, revealing a ring that was both stunning and thoughtful. A sapphire the color of Charleston Harbor surrounded by diamonds, set in a band of recycled gold. Not the biggest diamond money could buy, but something chosen specifically for her, reflecting her values and his understanding of who she was. Erica Lance, you are the strongest, most ethical, most brilliant person I've ever known. You challenge me to be better, support me through every crisis, and love my daughter like she's already yours. Will you marry me? Not because it's practical or convenient or makes business sense, but because I love you completely and want to spend every day for the rest of my life proving that you're the best decision I ever made? Erica was crying now, overwhelmed by the simplicity and sincerity of his proposal. No audience, no pressure, just the two of them in a parked car with the city lights as their witnesses. Yes, she said through tears. Yes, of course, yes. Spencer, I love you so much, and there's nothing I want more than to be your wife and Chloe's stepmother and part of your family officially. Spencer slid the ring onto her finger, a perfect fit because of course he'd somehow figured out her ring size without her noticing, and pulled her into a kiss that was tender and passionate and full of promise. When they broke apart, both were crying and laughing simultaneously. I should tell you, Spencer said, his smile mischievous. Chloe helped me pick out the ring. She said you'd hate a traditional diamond and that the sapphire matches your favorite color. She also insisted on recycled gold because you care about sustainability. She helped pick it out? Erica looked at the ring with new eyes, seeing not just Spencer's love, but Chloe's approval and participation. Spencer, that means everything. She's thrilled about this. She's been asking when I was going to propose for weeks. Said she's ready to have you as her official mom, not just her dad's girlfriend. Spencer's voice was thick with emotion. We're a family, Erica. We have been for months. This just makes it official. They sat in the car for a long time, holding each other and planning their future. A small wedding, just family and close friends, maybe at the cabin where they'd first made love, or on the Riverside project site where communities would benefit from their work. Somewhere meaningful, not performative. I want to adopt Chloe, Erica said suddenly. If she wants that and you're okay with it, I know you're her father legally, but I want to be her mother legally too. Not just stepmom, but actual parent with all the rights and responsibilities. Spencer's smile was radiant. She'll love that. And yes, I'm more than okay with it. She's lucky to have you. I'm lucky to have both of you. They drove home, to their home now, Erica realized, because she'd been staying at Spencer's house more than her apartment for weeks, and found Chloe waiting up for them despite the late hour. The moment they walked in, she squealed. You said yes. Oh my God, you're wearing the ring. Dad, you actually did it. What gave it away? Spencer asked dryly. The fact that you both look like you've been crying and you're holding hands like your lives depend on it. Chloe launched herself at Erica, hugging her tightly. I'm so happy. I know this is fast and kind of crazy, but I'm really, truly happy. You're exactly who I want my dad to be with, and exactly who I want as my mom. Mom, Erica repeated softly, feeling the weight and wonder of that word. Chloe, would you be okay with me officially adopting you after the wedding, making it legal that I'm your parent, not just your stepmom? Chloe pulled back, eyes wide. Really? You want to adopt me? More than anything, if you want that too. Chloe's answer was to hug Erica even tighter, sobbing happy tears into her shoulder. Yes, I want that. I want you to be my mom officially. Spencer wrapped his arms around both of them, creating a family hug that felt like coming home. They stood there for a long time, crying and laughing and reveling in the knowledge that despite everything they had survived individually, They'd found each other and built something beautiful from the ruins of their separate pasts. 6 months later, Erica stood at the groundbreaking ceremony for the Riverside Community Development, watching families gather to celebrate. The project she'd once thought would never exist now stretched before her. Affordable housing designed with dignity, community spaces that actually served people's needs, playgrounds where children could play safely while their parents watched from nearby benches. Spencer's arm wrapped around her waist, his wedding ring catching the sunlight. They'd married 3 months ago in a small ceremony at the cabin, with just Chloe, Tessa, and a handful of close friends in attendance. Olivia had come too, still not entirely approving, but making the effort for her son's sake. "Thinking about the journey?" Spencer murmured against her ear. "Thinking about how close I came to running from all this." Erica gestured to the development site, to Spencer, to Chloe sketching designs for the youth center she'd helped conceive. "When Vanessa accused me of embezzlement, when your mother made it clear I wasn't good enough, when everything seemed to be falling apart again, I almost walked away to protect myself from more pain. But you didn't." "But I didn't," Erica confirmed, "and now I have everything I never dared to dream was possible. A career that's thriving on its own merits, a husband who sees me for who I really am, a daughter who chose me as much as I chose her." Chloe joined them, showing off her latest design revisions. At 16 now, she was already receiving interest from top architecture programs, her portfolio showcasing the kind of innovative thinking that came from being mentored by someone who valued integrity over image. "Mom, what do you think about adding more green space here?" Chloe pointed to her sketch. "I know it reduces the building footprint, but I think families need outdoor gathering spaces more than they need maximum square footage." "I think you're absolutely right," Erica said, her heart swelling with pride every time Chloe called her mom. "Buildings should heal communities, not just house them." "That's what you always say," Chloe grinned, "and it's what makes your design special." Frank Morrison appeared, looking frailer than last they'd seen him, but still mobile despite his illness. He'd insisted on attending the groundbreaking, claiming he wanted to see the culmination of Erica's vision before he died. "Miss Lance, or should I say Mrs. Kerrigan?" Frank's smile was warm. "This is extraordinary. Everything you said it would be and more." "Thank you, Frank, for everything." Erica meant it. His confession had been instrumental in clearing her name, even if the timing had been selfish. "How are you feeling?" "Tired but content, knowing I helped restore your reputation before I go. That's more than I deserve." Frank paused. "I wanted to tell you something. The senior partners who destroyed your career? They're all facing professional misconduct charges now. The architectural board is stripping their licenses, fining them heavily, and using their case as an example of what not to do. You won that battle, Erica. Completely and permanently." Erica felt satisfaction, but not vindictiveness. She'd stopped needing revenge once she'd built a life that mattered more than settling scores. "That's good," she said simply. "Other young architects need to see that corruption has consequences." As the ceremony began, Erica found herself thinking about the building collapse that had changed everything. Michael Chen, Rebecca Washington, James Rodriguez, their deaths had shattered her world and set her on a path she never would have chosen. But that path had led here, to Spencer and Chloe, to meaningful work that served communities, to a life built on authentic connections rather than professional accolades. She thought about the families she still supported, now openly rather than anonymously. Sarah had gone back to school to become a nurse, using some of the settlement money to pursue the career she'd always wanted. Marcus and his wife had established a foundation in Rebecca's name to support young women in STEM fields. Elna had retired, finally able to rest after decades of exhausting labor, secure in knowing James's memory was honored through scholarships that helped other first-generation college students. "Thank you," Spencer said during his speech to the crowd. "To Erica Kerrigan, whose vision and integrity made this project possible, to the community members who trusted us enough to partner with us, and to everyone who believes that buildings can heal rather than hurt, that development can serve people rather than displace them, that we can create spaces that honor dignity and foster connection. The crowd erupted in applause, and Erica felt tears pricking her eyes as people turned to look at her with respect and appreciation. This was vindication, not through vengeance, but through creation, proving her worth by building something that mattered. After the ceremony, as people mingled and celebrated, Erica noticed 3 familiar faces in the crowd. Sarah Chen stood with her 3 children, all healthy and thriving. Marcus and his wife held hands, their grief still present but no longer defining them. And Elena Rodriguez stood beside a young woman in a college sweatshirt, one of the scholarship recipients, Erica realized, carrying on James's legacy. They approached together, and Sarah spoke first. "We wanted to be here, to see what you've built, and to thank you again for everything you've done for our families." "You don't have to thank me," Erica said, but Sarah shook her head. "Yes, we do. Because you could have walked away, could have protected yourself and let us struggle alone. But you didn't. You've spent years helping us heal, and now you're creating housing that will help hundreds of other families avoid the kind of displacement and struggle we've faced." Sarah's voice was thick with emotion. "Michael would be so proud of you. He always said architecture should serve people, not profits. You're proving him right." Marcus stepped forward. "Rebecca wanted to be an engineer, to design sustainable infrastructure that would serve underserved communities. This project," he gestured to the development site, "this is what she dreamed of creating. You're honoring her memory better than we ever could." Elena pulled out a photo, the same one of James in his college sweatshirt. "My son believed education could change the world. The scholarships you helped establish have sent 5 students to college now. 5 families who won't lose their children to hopelessness or violence or poverty. That's James's legacy living on." The young woman beside Elena spoke up. "I'm Maria, one of the scholarship recipients. James and I never met, but I carry his memory every day. When classes get hard or money gets tight, I remember that someone believed in first-generation students enough to create opportunities for us. That keeps me going." Erica was fully crying now, Spencer's arm around her waist the only thing keeping her upright. "I don't know what to say. I've spent 2 years feeling like I failed them, like nothing I did could ever make up for their deaths." "You didn't fail them," Sarah said firmly. "You honored them. By refusing to let their deaths be meaningless, by helping their families survive, by building projects that reflect the values they held. That's not failure, Erica. That's love." After they left, Erica collapsed onto a bench overlooking the construction site, emotionally overwhelmed but profoundly at peace. Spencer sat beside her, Chloe on her other side, the 3 of them watching the sunset over what would soon be a thriving community. "I have something to tell you both," Erica said, her hand instinctively moving to her stomach. "I wasn't sure when to mention it, but this moment feels right." Spencer's eyes widened. "Erica, are you pregnant? About 8 weeks." Erica smiled through new tears. "Surprise?" Chloe squealed, launching herself at Erica with enthusiastic hugs. "I'm going to be a big sister. This is the best day ever." Spencer was quieter, but the emotion on his face was overwhelming. He pulled Erica into his arms, his hand settling over hers on her stomach. "Another chance," he whispered. "Another chance to do this right, to build a family based on truth instead of lies." "We're already doing it right," Erica assured him. "We have been since the day we chose each other." What's your biggest takeaway from Spencer and Erica's journey? Have you ever had to choose between protecting yourself and fighting for love? Share your story in the comments below. Your experience might inspire someone who needs to hear it today. And if this story touched your heart, hit that subscribe button and join our family. Tomorrow we have another powerful tale about love, redemption, and second chances. Until then, remember, your past doesn't define you. Your courage to keep loving despite it does. This is Dear Love Diaries, reminding you that you're worthy of the love you've been afraid to claim.